for the City Commission meeting on September 3rd, regular commission meeting. I'm calling the meeting to order. I'd like to, if you could all stand. Oh, excuse me, roll call, please. Roll call.
Commissioner Marker,
I'm here.
Deputy Vice Mayor Long,
Here.
Vice Mayor Cassell,
Here.
Commissioner Burns,
Here.
Mayor Carney.
Here. Make that mistake all the time. I see you all, so I know you're here. If you could please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Okay, we have the approval of the agenda, and I have one item,
I do too, if you don't mind.
which is 9A.
Nine?
9A. the-
9?
9, number 9, as the Beatles said, number 9.
Are you pulling it, you mean?
I am postponing it because I have been discussing with the city manager about having this discussed at a workshop, because this was from a prior administration that did a lot of work on it, and I'm not, staff did a lot of work on it, but I have a lot of questions on it. I have been receiving a lot of calls on it, so I think I would like to have a better explanation of it with staff and input before we do the first reading. So that's my request.
Okay. I don't know, I don't need can you do that individually, or do you think?
Well,
Because I think two of the commissioners here were, I don't care if you want to. It's
I
whatever.
just think the in lieu is a very big part of the development of this town. We've used it very successfully. I've seen a lot of people, arguments for it and against it. That's why I would really like to dive into it more deeply with staff before we start having, proposals on the record. And I don't want to have to vote no on it today, which I would do, because I don't know enough about it.
Weren't we diving into it this evening in the presentation though?
There's no presentation, it's the first reading.
Oh, well then why don't we do the first read, and then you dive into it with staff, and then by the second read,
Because
we'll.
there may be changes, and we may have to start the process again. So I would rather stick with an ordinance that we,
I can't believe I'm going to say this, but I agree with the workshop idea.
Oh, gosh.
Just because I think there's a lot of misconceptions about it, that'd be a good chance to clear up.
yeah, I just think it's just too important. It's been such an important tool for the city for so many years. I just don't want to not fully understand what I'm doing and what impact it's going to have on everyone. And I read the revenue impacts, and I've read everything, and I think it's very well presented. But I still think I'd like to do a workshop first.
So, ladies and gentlemen, if consensus or majority consensus
But we don't
exists
know
in
if
that
the
regard.
consensus yet. Have Mr. Is it?
I'm okay with that.
I'm okay with
Give
it.
you consensus.
So, on that note, I would propose maybe a week from today, we have a workshop meeting scheduled for the 10th of September. Currently slated for
Wait, do we have a meeting on that day?
September 10th, a workshop meeting,
No,
September
do we
10th.
have something currently on our schedule? I don't have my schedule in front of me, I still
You
use
We have
do.
a workshop on the 10th.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so you're
Yes,
gonna
ma'am.
bring it into the workshop that we currently have scheduled?
Yes,
we're talking
ma'am.
about doing it on the 16th. I'm sorry, the 10th.
I'm going to be in Washington.
I'm actually traveling to town, too.
Well, can you
Well, there's
call
no
it?
rush. I mean, we can,
Well, there's,
I know we did the extension.
I would, if you want to extend the zoning in progress, you can give me direction on that later, but it does expire mid-October.
Okay, well, we have,
If we did the first reading today and then we had a workshop in between, we could
Right.
make whatever changes the commission wished. and then we
I
would be-
really would rather before the first reading, because I'm not going to support this, because I don't know enough about it. I mean, I really think that there has been, this has come very fast. A lot of people didn't know about it, because no notice is required by the city.
It's on the agenda, I mean, I know about it.
Well,
we
I know about it too. but-
Listen, I'm supporting you, just, I think that what our city attorney is saying to us is we're in a time
I understand
constraint.
the rule.
So maybe we should do the first read tonight and get our workshop done in the middle. If we make a recommendation, it comes back at the second meeting with a presentation. It's no different, really.
Well, I would like, I like the ordinance when we vote on it to be representative of what we're ultimately going to approve. I
Right, but
understand the
we-
difference between the first and the second reading, but I'm not prepared to support the first reading, because I don't know.
So you can say no during the first reading, but the point is, we'll have the workshop, we'll give recommendation, and then we'll have our second
I
reading.
think that's the wrong way to do it.
But if we're under a time constraint,
We can always extend the
We
zoning
can
in
always
progress.
extend, we can always extend the
But I
zoning
would need
progress.
direction for
We can
that.
always extend it. If we couldn't extend it, then I would agree with you. But we're not under that much of a time constraint, because we have the ability to, we have the complete ability to control that. Plus, Mr. Long agreed. And so in his newsletter, he's gonna say, finally, Carney and I agreed on something.
Carney gave me a
So, I
workshop,
mean, that's not irrelevant.
the 800.
So can we have consensus?
Sure, I'm giving you consensus. I
Thank you
just
very much. You
feel
have
like we're
consensus.
making it complicated.
So, my initial thinking, based on the feedback having been provided, was for September 10th. However, only about 3 of you will be in attendance. We have the opioid litigation policy to consider, as well as one other update, special events. Programming considerations are the current 2 items on the workshop meeting agenda for September 10th. This would be appropriate to include that if there was some interest to participate telephonically, whatever the case may be, for those of you who will not be physically present. Otherwise, I think we would be prepared to that effect. And if we were to proceed September 10th, I would propose that we begin the workshop meeting at 5 o'clock
I
p.m.
was
as
gonna
opposed to 6
recommend
o'clock
5
p.m.
o'clock because I know Commissioner Burns really wants to start at 5, so.
So if there's support in that regard, this could be the 3rd item on the agenda for that evening, 1 week from today.
Is that satisfactory to Commissioner Long and Commissioner Markert, so that you could call in and participate that way?
I'll try. I'll probably like in an airport, but I'll try.
Okay,
I
Great.
should be able to.
Okay.
Okay, very well. So you have 3 workshop meeting items for September 10th, Tuesday, 1 week from today, and 3 workshop items. I would suggest this be the 3rd because the other 2 are perhaps a bit more straightforward. We've had discussions about them thus far already. And to begin at 5 o'clock, we should have a productive experience.
Perfect. Did you say you had something else you
I
wanted to?
wanted to just pull 6A, which is the minutes, just for an inquiry, please.
6A.
Yes,
7 a.m.
thank you.
So we're going to make that an agenda item 7AA, if you're pulling it, okay?
Mayor,
Yes?
can we pull 6J and we'll just put that on another agenda? The item was not executed on time.
Yes.
You want to pull that as 7BB or just pull it
No,
all
just
together?
pull it.
You want to remove it from the agenda? We're going
Yes,
to
please.
delete 6J, which is the acceptance of the sewer easement for Barwick Road?
Yes, sir.
Just confirming, okay. Anything else? Then I need a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
Motion to approve as amended the agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Great.
I'd have one other thing too, if you don't mind. I don't know when the appropriate time is, but I feel like it might be now. Historic Preservation Board, we are currently not meeting the minimum requirements on that board, and here's why. On the 5th of August, there were 4 applicants to be selected, starting with you, Mayor, Mr. Markert, Mr. Long, and then on to me. You selected an at-large. The next 3 selections needed to be people who qualified. Mr. Markert selected Ms. Perez, who qualified. Mr. Long deferred to the following meeting. And I selected a gentleman who qualified as well, Mr. Cabezas. I believe I'm pronouncing that correctly. When we came back on the 19th, I was not paying attention. Mr. Long made his
Kashaw.
selection. I know. I feel upset with myself, honestly. But as a result of the selection not being someone qualified, we now don't meet our minimum requirements, and we are in risk of losing matching funds on. So I think
That's a
we
good
need
point
to-
of order. What do we recommend? Do we have to recommend adding that to this, to the next meeting to select or?
Well, it sounds like it's a motion for reconsideration, so you would have to reconsider the vote, and then at the next meeting, that you would direct the city clerk to put the appointment on the agenda.
So at comments, would you like to make sure you do a motion to reconsider, or do you want to, we should
do it now, or should I do it then?
I would recommend doing it during comments at the
That's
end.
Okay,
what- okay,
I'll make a
yeah.
note to myself. Thank
So
you.
Make a note, please. Any other points of order? In
No,
which
thank
case,
you.
we have a quarterly financial review.
Actually, the first item needs to be the budget hearing.
Oh, yes,
proposed
it
budget
does,
hearing.
okay, we're on a time thing.
So
That's
if we
correct.
can update the agenda to allow that presentation to ensue. And Mr. Mayor, I'll be making a presentation.
Please continue.
Okay, thank you. So what we have in store is the facilitation of the first public hearing. The second is scheduled to take place Monday, September 16th, 2024. Relative to the proposed budget, it does touch on the recently adopted rollback millage rate of 5.9063 to include the debt service portion
I'm
thereof.
sorry, you're doing 7A? Is that what you're jumping to do? Item 7A?
No, 7A is
Okay.
the,
Okay, so I need to read a couple of things before we go
I
into it.
apologize, yeah. That's
we are doing 8A. general operating and debt service proposed millage rates.
8A, I'm sorry.
Right.
Yes, okay, so can I just read what I'm supposed to
It's
read?
a public hearing, so please, you want to,
Okay, so, resolution number 173-24, a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Delray Beach, Florida, certifying to the property appraiser and tax collector of Palm Beach County the proposed rates of millage to be levied by the City of Delray Beach for the fiscal year beginning October 1st, 2024, establishing the City of Delray Beach's proposed general fund operating millage at 5.9063, establishing the City of Delray Beach proposed debt service millage at .0337, providing an effective date and for other purposes. The intent of the City Commission is to adopt an operating millage rate of 5.9063, which is necessary to fund salaries, operating expenses, and capital expenses in the general fund, and to adopt a debt service millage of .0337 for a total millage rate for fiscal year 2024-2025 of 5.9400.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. So essentially, 8A and 8C are one presentation as a whole. So again, fiscal year 2024-2025, proposed budget, first public hearing, and this is a comprehensive presentation based on the feedback and guidance having been provided, most recently that of July 25th, 2024, and August 13th, in which we've offered some balanced budget considerations to get to that place. Next slide, please. So first of all, the proposed millage rates. So for the current fiscal year, you can see how they're highlighted. The initially adopted for the current fiscal year being 6.3611. The current recommendation now, based on the direction of the Commission July 25th, 2024, is to support the rollback rate of 5.9063. That also takes into consideration a debt millage rate that is existing, and that's actually decreasing significantly because it will soon conclude at .0337 for an aggregate total millage rate of 5.9400. Next slide, please. What this means for the average homeowner in the city of Delray Beach, Florida, in terms of what they paid for the city of Delray Beach or to the city of Delray Beach, it is about a $114 a year decrease in millage rate bill to the average taxpayer based on metrics we've shared before. Of course, that fluctuates and adjusts, and this is based on a taxable assessed valuation of $300,000. We've actually tweaked that higher based on metrics and feedback from the Office of the Property Appraiser. So this is based on $309,000 in property valuation. So average of $1,949 current fiscal year to go down to $1,835. Next slide, please. This is simply a bar graph representation of decreases in millage rates having been experienced over the last nearly 10 years, and this figure takes under consideration the debt millage rate as well, so 5.9400. Next slide, please. Proposed millage rates for all taxing authorities. An average property owner in the city of Delray Beach would pay a total millage rate of 18.1994. So the city of Delray Beach, about 32%. This is really important for the residents and stakeholders to be familiar in that regard, so as to help alleviate any confusion as to what the total or the aggregate property tax bill might look like. So in the case of Delray Beach at 5.944, there's lion's share coming from the public schools, not to mention the county and other special districts, water management district, inland navigation district, etc. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Citywide budget by fund type. The total reference in this regard is $567,689,009. However, I would like to highlight for a moment the capital projects reference of $182,603,73. That is a combination of various funding sources: Beach Restoration Fund, General Construction Fund, 1 cent sales tax, the 2004 General Obligation Bond Construction Fund, the current Recreation General Obligation Bond, the current Public Safety General Obligation Bond. Those are the largest outcomes in that regard. We still have to account for those, and therefore they would be referenced in this overall presentation. Not to mention the water/sewer renewal replacement and the water treatment plan. Those projects have been included as reference in that regard, so it's not a full representation of what the actual budget is. It is actually minus that amount, but for accounting and budgeting purposes, and based on the standards of the Government Finance Officers Association of the United States and Canada, we do have to reference that, so I do caution you all in that regard. Next slide, please. General fund revenues, and we talked about this quite well during the August 13, 2024 workshop meeting. The initial or the resulting recommendation for the general fund revenues of $186,979,989, down from $191,366,918. So that is a reduction of $4,386,000 and change, or a 2% reduction in revenue outcomes in that regard. This is directly the result of moving to the rollback rate from the current millage rate for present fiscal year. Next slide, please. A few highlights in this regard. Estimated taxable values of property increased from $16.3 billion to $18.1 billion. Increase in property tax revenue of 2.7 from $100.5 million to $103.2 million. Property tax rate expected to decrease for the 12th straight year, 0.45 mils to the rollback rate of 5.9063 mils. Decrease in revenue as a result of no longer being in business with the town of Highland Beach for fire rescue services. A decrease in parking revenue and the reduction or elimination virtually of ARPA funds revenue. And again, a lot of this information we talked about before. We just thought it would be important to highlight it and underscore it again. Decrease in projected millage. Decrease in fines and forfeitures of about $500,000 due to decrease in parking tickets and late fees. People becoming more compliant in that regard. There's more to offer attention. Decrease in projected use of fund balance reserve from $10.3 million to $8.3. So some reductions in that regard. We've also were able to factor a revenue outcome anticipated as a result of reactivating the Creative Arts School of about $291,000 annually, and that's fairly conservative. Next slide, please. General fund by category: personnel services, operating expenditures, capital outlay, grants and aids, debt service, other usage. And given the aggregate downward adjustment, $4.3 million, nearly $4.4 million, or 2% less, these are adjustments are reflected in this regard as well. Personnel service is the one remaining increase because of the associated nature of covering personnel costs, as well as grants and aids having been administered across the board in that regard. So we will have a change of about 3% in that regard. All other categories will experience a reduction in activity in terms of expenditures. Next slide, please. This is simply a general fund expenditures by individual departments. Again, downward reductions in expenditures across the board, given the aforementioned efficiencies in operations and what we were able to highlight and underscore during the August 13th workshop meeting. Next slide, please. Budgetary highlights in terms of expenditures. So we talked a little bit about personnel services from $108.7 million to $114.2 million. Of course, the SEIU and PBA collective bargaining agreement discussions remain in place. The fire pension contributions of about $1.2 million, increase in police pension contributions of about $300,000, increase in pension contributions for general employees of about $500,000, decrease in transfers to general capital projects fund of about $7.3 million, funding for Creative Arts School, $378,000, that initial investment we talked about during the early part of the summer when offering a consideration to get to the Creative Arts School internally, as well as an increase of $747,000 in payment of tax incremental revenues to the Community Redevelopment Agency. Next slide, please. As far as enterprise funds, which encompasses water and sewer utility, stormwater utility, sanitation fund, city marina, municipal Lakeview golf course, municipal and Lakeview golf course, as well as the cemetery fund. And as we've underscored a number of times now, enterprise funds operate like regular business enterprises. The financial goal for enterprise funds is to charge a user fee that will be sufficient to cover the cost of providing services. Next slide, please. So at a glance, for the water and sewer fund, rate adjustment of 6.9% to become effective October 1, 2024. projected monthly bill of $69.11 for the average customer with 6,000 gallons of usage. Stormwater Fund. New stormwater rate structure implemented back in October of last year. Funding for capital projects grant matches is really the basis for that. Sanitation Fund. Rate adjustment of about 3.55% effective October 1. Curbside collection for residential single family of about $19.13 a month. Municipal Lakeview golf courses, both of those. Overdue renovations and repairs, we talked about that extensively. And during my comments, as far as city manager chiming in on the public 5A, I'll talk a little bit about where we go in terms of public engagement as it relates to the golf course and plans for that facility in operation. The city marina and cemetery, there's a highlight relative to the construction of the mausoleum, something that the city commission recently approved as well. Next slide, please. As far as your enterprise funds, this is the snapshot in that regard. Total enterprise funds at about $126 million in change for the upcoming fiscal year. This has grown significantly, and much of that is a function of the stormwater component as well as the water and sewer adjustments. Those are the lion's share in that regard. The smaller categories, not as much. The sanitation fund slightly down, as well as the municipal golf course piece. Again, we have a bright future ahead, we think. And Lakeview Golf Course, we have a slight adjustment in terms of enterprise funds outcomes in that regard. Next slide, please. Other funds at a glance: Law Enforcement Trust Fund, Special Projects Fund, Recreation Impact Fee Fund, Neighborhood Services Fund, Beautification Trust Fund, Local Option Gas Tax Fund, 1 to 5 cents, Local Option Gas Tax Fund, 1 to 6 cents, Building Permit Fund, Debt Service Fund, including the General Obligation Bond Fund, Utility Tax Debt Service Fund, as well as Internal Service Funds, Garage Fund, and Insurance Fund. Next slide, please. This is simply a breakdown of special revenue funds, and there's a slight adjustment downward in that regard when factoring those categories. Again, building, law enforcement, local option gas, those categories, special projects, recreation impact fee fund, neighborhood services fund, beautification trust fund. Slightly down to nearly $27.3 million, down from $28 million the current fiscal year. And we talked quite a bit throughout the course of this process as to why these experiences are taking shape. Next slide, please. This is a snapshot relative to the debt service fund. You have your general obligation fund, and these are existing, not the authorizations having been achieved back in March 2023. So general obligation bonds for the current fiscal year, $2.1 million, and down to $580,000 for the upcoming fiscal year. And again, we've taken care of those obligations, and therefore that is to be reduced accordingly. Utility tax bonds remain flat at $3.4 million in change. Next slide, please. Internal services funds. These are slowly on an upswing. The garage fund, there's an interest in doing what we can to make that as healthy and robust as possible, and that is trending in the right direction in that regard, at about a 3% increase from $13.5 million to $13.9 million in change, or an increase of about $404,000 in change. Same with the insurance fund, $26.1 million in change to nearly $26.8 million in change. So an aggregate increase between both internal services funds of about 3% higher. Next slide, please. The next steps of the proposed budget process, more or less underscored this during the introductory comments. This evening involved the first hearing. September 16th is the final public hearing, of which we will commence to that effect effective 6:01 that evening. And again, much of this was highlighted and underscored during previous engagements with the City Commission beginning in June, July, with the millage rate having been adopted at 5.9063, as well as specific strategies and recommendations that were supported during the August 13, 2024 workshop meeting to enable us to achieve a balanced budget recommendation. With that, that concludes the presentation. Both myself and Chief Financial Officer Mr. Hugh Dunkley are available for specific questions. Otherwise, these are our recommendations. Much appreciated.
Just to clarify, this presentation was for both 8A and 8C, correct?
It would be, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay.
But Mayor, we do need to handle each one separately.
Of course.
Yes, understood. Any questions to the commission?
No.
This is a public hearing, so anybody who would, member of the public who would like to speak on this matter, please come to the podium.
On 8A,
Sorry?
just simply 8A, which is the,
Yeah, 8A.
the millage rate.
Come to get sworn in. Seeing none, okay. Public comment is closed. To the commission, any further comments?
I'll make a quick one because I've, very amply discussed my concern with the rollback. And based on that, I won't be in support, but I don't want that to be misconstrued as me not supporting the city manager and staff's efforts to balance this budget. I think you've done a really good job given the position that you're in. That's all I have to say about it.
Okay. Any other comments from anyone?
I'll make a quick one. I just want to say thank you to you and your staff for going after this as hard as you did. I'm very comfortable with what you've done, and I'm very supportive of what you've done.
Commissioner Casal?
And some of this applies to our review of our quarterly financials, so it'll be redundant. But Mr. Moore, what is your financial management plan with respect to the reserves, generally speaking?
The proposed budget contemplates a fund balance of 20% equivalent to the general fund activity.
But in our current, I actually had some time on my hands, so I made a chart, and I went back to 2014. And the way we sit at the end of this fiscal year, we're at 20.4%. Because in our quarterly report for the last quarter, we anticipated using 8.4 million. But I think you may have increased that. Now, this doesn't factor in that additional increase because it looks like this report changed to 11.8 million. And I know sometimes that's, there's 1.4 prior year encumbered money, and we had 8.59 coming from the reserves, but now it looks like we might have an additional amount of money coming from the reserves.
Correct.
So we have not seen a budget amendment for that, though, but it's in the report.
You have.
We have. Which amendment was that? I'm sorry.
Without
It's fine. Don't worry
getting
about it.
granular, but
I
you
think
have.
the point,
Yeah.
I think I didn't vote for that, actually, now that you say that, is we're currently at 20.4, and I'm not even factoring that additional 1 million in. And if you look at next year, you're at 15.71% on your reserves. So I would just say to you that we have typically, in the city of Delray Beach, not used reserves. 2016, as you pointed out, we used them 900,000, I think, 1.9 million. And 2020, 519,000 in reserves. This year, we're using 10 million in reserves just to balance our budget for our day-to-day operations. And, people could argue, well, your rollback rate. This is not the rollback rate. So there is a problem if we are depending on our reserves for our day-to-day function, and it's a bad practice. So if you go back through all our ACFRs, which are CAFRs, now ACFRs, we have a policy listed in there that says we strive to be at 25%. And in fact, we had at one point so much money in 2022. When I sat up here, we said, let's cap it at 25 and let's start putting money into our enterprise funds. And the purpose of that was to formalize the policy with respect to enterprise funds having capital equal to 15% of their expenditure budget. So I don't know how we got from 2022 to having so much in our reserves that we were looking to cap it and put it into other funds to now digging into them to the tune of 10 million annually. And that is a problem. I am not supporting I have asked repeatedly for a breakdown, and I don't know if it'll help because I'm not an accountant. The mayor has asked for a breakdown of the budget as well. This budget needs to happen without you utilizing the reserves. And that is a history pattern that you've created that I'm very uncomfortable with. And that's pretty much what I want to say.
The proposed budget recommends a fund balance at 20% and
No, it does not. Excuse me. The current status is that we are at 20% when we start the budget. Your budget contemplates using over $8 million, which automatically reduces it. Yes, not right at the outset. It can start at 20. But once you reduce down that additional money, you become at 15. Because you are right now, and that doesn't contemplate that additional money, at 20.4. Is that what? Where are we at, Mr. Dunkley, exactly?
Vice Mayor,
Yes.
typically the fund balance is measured as of September 30th
Right.
of each year.
Yes.
September 30th of 2023, the fund balance was at around, wish I had looked at the act for, prior to this, is at approximately 35% of total general fund expenditures. The budget incorporates all of what you've said. In terms of the 20%, that came about as a result of GFOA best practices. GFOA, they're currently in a project of quote-unquote rethinking fund balance. They're moving away from the 5 to 15%, and they're giving entities a larger latitude with which to figure out how much is needed. Some entities are on the coast, some are in the Midwest where you have significant windstorm activity.
Right, but we're a coastal community.
So the point is, our proposal is proposing 20% of general fund expenditures. We typically don't measure fund balance. This is September 3rd. We wait till the end of each year, and thus far, the revenue and expenditure activity for this year appears favorable. We don't contemplate using a significant amount of fund balance reserve, if any. Since 2022, the fund balance has increased. So just because you budget-
Actually, it's percentage-wise going down. 2022, it was at 32.5%. 2023, 30.3%. And 2024, 20.4%. And that information comes directly from our ACFR, CAFR.
But-
I did not create that myself. I just went through those documents and
Bear
pulled the
with- bear with
information.
me. What you have to understand is that the fund balance, a percentage, 30% of a larger number, we're looking at absolute dollars.
The absolute dollars are also going down. 2023, it was 48.7, and I believe 2024 today, it's at about 38.4. When you started this year, that number comes from the document, and then you take off the assumed 8, that's at 30,
Vice
right?
Mayor, we don't calculate fund balance at September 3rd. We calculate fund balance when the auditors come in and render their opinion and audit the books. We don't, it's impractical.
Okay, but if my number is different than yours, we can agree that the number is going down because we're utilizing the
Not
money.
the absolute number. There is a table at the back of each ACFR. If you look at the table, and this sort of stuff is best to dialogue behind the scenes so I could pull up the numbers.
It's right in the book, though. I don't want
Yeah,
to say
but
that
I
the
don't-
book can't
I don't-
possibly be wrong. It's given to the state. It's presented to us. It's a financial document. But let's agree to disagree on that for a brief moment. Boca Raton has 25% in their reserves. Gulfstream has 43. Ocean Ridge has 40. Fort Myers 37. Sanibel 36. This actually came from the Coastal Star. And we are at about 20 and going down. So I will not look at this budget until you explain how we're not going to be using the reserves in terms of voting. And I'm sorry, because that has never been our policy. our revenues are increasing dramatically every year. So how is it that every year we're having to jump into our reserves for more money? It's making no sense to me.
As our expenditures are increasing, expenditure activity in terms of the municipal rate of inflation is significantly higher than revenue outcomes that have been offered. I explained this in the PowerPoint presentation back during the June and July meetings, actually. And of course, we are involved in a number of large-scale projects outside in the general obligation bond authorizations that were achieved back in 2023. However, the current recommendation does not involve us having to reduce the fund balance by 20%. And that's something I think
Your
we've
current
pointed out before.
recommendation says $8 million from other sources. What are those other sources?
Ma'am, the recommendation is to maintain a fund balance reserve at 20% or greater. The calculation, as you just stated, is about 20.4%. You're correct about that. However, the recommendation is at the 20% mark, whereby we don't anticipate having to go below that threshold, below that dollar amount. So as far as the specific question and as to the $8 million you've mentioned, Mr. Dunkley, I'm going to need your assistance in that regard so as to help clarify.
The 8 million represents usage of fund balance, a proposed usage of fund balance.
Right,
That was
exactly.
bear with me, that was incorporated into the calculation of the 20%.
So that doesn't take away the 20% piece I talked about. So despite that adjustment having been made as part of the aggregate recommendation, we still have a 20% outcome
Correct.
factored into the budget.
I-
It is there.
I apologize, but I wholeheartedly disagree. If you go through the CAFRs from 2014 to the present, I
Ma'am.
think in this current year, you're at
The
20.4.
CAFRs they're not integral calculus. If you look from one year to the next.
Okay, this is fine.
Fund balance is increased.
Thank you. Okay.
So
Right, they increase.
If you look at the table, there is a statistical table in the back of the ACFR that tells you what fund balance is. The percentage might have decreased because the percentage, 25% of a larger number, is significantly larger. So as the expenditures increase, which they invariably will each year, obviously you have to be able to get 25% of a larger
I
number.
understand the expenditures increase, so 25 equates to more
Exactly.
money. That's correct.
Yes.
But then how do you explain that in 2023 you had 48.7 and in 2024 you have 38.4 with
We
those
have-
increased
As the
expenditures?
manager explained, we have a significant amount of capital projects that we're currently funding.
Right, so then we don't disagree. The number is lower, is what I'm saying.
The number is lower for the
Correct.
reasons we've
Thank you.
stated. That's
And
correct.
exactly.
If I may, Vice Mayor, I'm here to support what you're offering because that is true. But there's a definite, concrete, definitive reason as to why that's true. The city of Delray Beach is involved in a lot of projects and initiatives to get squared away. We made recommendations to take a look at that. Much of this is a function of grant matches that are currently underway by the city of Delray Beach that the city commission, current and prior, made a commitment to move forward in that regard. So that's a highly compelling factor in terms of why we are where we are. However, given the feedback I've experienced from the elected officials as a body and as individually, the recommendation is to maintain a 20% outcome. I've had robust discussions with several of you all about that particular consideration, and that is the basis of recommendations. So
when
it
did
has
that-
gone down,
When
but
did
our
it
interest is
change
to
from
maintain it.
25 to 20?
25 to 20?
Correct.
The numbers you just talked about, the dollar amounts you just talked
When did
about.
your
that.
determination that we should be sitting on 20% versus 25?
The first budget workshop. we
Back in
presented-
June, that's correct.
We presented.
I
that.
believe I said I'm not amenable to that. Who agreed to that?
I know I did.
You did, going down
And I'll
to 20%?
tell you why. And I mean, I think this is a misunderstanding of reserves. I spent a lot of time back in 2000, 2013, understanding what reserves need to be for a city. What you're talking about is timing issues of when you take the money out and what you look like at the end of the snapshot at the end of the year.
That's
so it's
correct.
tough to do a snapshot
It's
when you
never
spend.
a solid
No, we have
number.
continuing revenues. We have continuing
Right.
revenues which manage your fund balance at the end of the year. But when you talk about what a city's reserve should be, you know, even the people up in the experts, whoever they are, who the GFOEs, you know, really give a range between 5 and 15%. Okay, you're a coastal community, so you think
And a
you need
full-service coastal community.
let me finish now. There are many components with this determining what your reserve should be. 25% is arguably in Boca Raton and other places they're over-reserved. Why? Because they have the ability, in the event of a crisis, what's the purpose of a reserve? It's there to be able to operate a city in the event of a crisis. The city of Delray Beach is blessed in having a great credit rating. They're blessed with having a low millage rate. I wouldn't make the argument for 20% if I were Miami or places such as Hialeah, which are looking at millage rates right at the statutory cap of 10%. We are at 5.9, even at 6.4, even at 7% millage rate. That means that the city of Delray Beach has the ability to raise money anytime it needs to, because we have such room in our millage rates based on the values that we have. You don't want to do that.
No.
So you keep a balance. You know, so I could tell you some people, if you ask some experts, think 20% theoretically could be too high based on our ability to raise money. We have the ability to raise money in the event of a crisis. That's why we fought so hard to get great bond ratings. That's why we have this great appreciation in our property. If we had to raise money, which God forbid we don't have to, but if we had to raise money over the 20% of reserves that we would be maintaining, that's what you really have to look for.
So
And we do have that capability.
Are you comfortable utilizing that, though?
I
for
think
daily
20%.
balance
I
of
think
the
20%.
budget?
I was one of the. I'll be honest. I thought 20% was a great number. I thought we were over reserved at 25. And listen. I've been in my entire life in and around banking and finance. And in the bank, when I was in the bank, my auditors, they couldn't reserve enough. They just love to reserve. The point was, that's what you people do. Respectfully, you auditors reserve. But we didn't need the reserves. And banking is different because you'd have to calculate your loan loss and your things such as that. But in a city which has the ability to raise money, you really don't need to have the same. And I don't want to compare myself to other communities because I don't know what their financial situation is like. I know Boca Raton has several pockets of cash they could go to, but they're maxed out in a lot of different areas. Mm-hmm. Everyone loves to talk about, well, Boca's millage rate is low. Well, yes, one millage rate, but they have 3 other sources where they raise money. So when you calculate it against us, we are lower.
I'm strictly sticking to the reserve aspect.
No, I honestly think that 25%, and I mean, I didn't do this willy-nilly, but 25%.
Well, I just didn't know it happened because no one told me.
I don't know. I don't know who else had the conversation with
Well,
Mr. Moore.
I mean, that's a question. Good question.
when I
Who
looked
else had
at-
the conversation?
But when I looked at the reserves here, and by the way, we have been over-reserved for the last couple of years, because just to throw things in reserves, I agree with you about adding to your enterprise funds, but we have pretty healthy enterprise funds too.
That's questionable, I think.
Well,
They're not where they need. Our garage fund, where
The garage
We're
fund was
leasing-
in the hole,
was in a
it was in a
tremendous hole.
bad
We're
place,
leasing
and we're moving
vehicles
forward in
instead
that
of buying
right
them.
now.
Correct.
And that's why, if I may,
we've
please.
increased all our rights. No, if you go back and answer one question for me, who else told you that our policy should be 20%? Because I didn't discuss that with you.
No, the only one, I've had general
So
conversations
you made
with a
that
couple.
determination on one person?
We talkk. No, I would never do that, ma'am.
But
I would
then
never,
how would
ma'am,
we
ma'am.
not-
No,
we need
I've
to
never
agree
done
on
that.
that.
I would never operate that way. I don't do that. I did not.
when the numbers were being,
I present, if I may, Mr. Mayor, I have to speak up because that's not the case at all. We talked about that, and frankly, while striking a balance to bring back recommendations to maintain levels of service and all other capital projects and initiatives being underway, a definitive recommendation based on the calculations, it merited 20%. It wasn't based on one discussion with one individual elected official. I would never operate that way. I did not. So when we made the presentation, first beginning in June, we highlighted that a bit. We talked about that as to why that makes sense. And part of me addressing that was talking with Mr. Dunkley and other staff members, but notably the Chief Financial Officer, reviewing the the Government Finance Officers Association of the United States and Canada's threshold policies for best practices. They came up with 5% to 15%. And I said, okay, that helped me offer a consideration which goes back to June. And I did. And it was objective based on that data, based on benchmarking with the Government Finance Officers Association of the United States and Canada in terms of alleviating any questions or editorial comments regarding what's high, what's low, whatever the case may be. And I said, well, we made a determination. Also, in the rating process, we spent a lot of time back in the early part of June, working with the rating agencies to get the higher rating, which we did, and the affirmed rating, dealing with S&P Investor Service and Moody's Investor Service and S&P Rating Service. The updated bond ratings were the experience, and part of that outcome was a 20% consideration, because working with the rating agencies, back me up in this regard, Mr. Dunkley,
Just to jump in.
Please, it's okay, you don't have to go
Yeah,
on.
the ratings were determined,
But we highlighted the 20% deal in that regard because, if I may, Mr. Dunkley, we talked openly about this several times. We don't wish to go below that amount. We need to be in that realm, 20%, in order to support that rating so they won't have any difficulty later on.
I think you're
We did.
overlooking the fact that we determined that that we'd keep it at 25 and we would start feeding those other funds that needed assistance, because there are other funds that needed assistance. So if you're dropping your number down to 20, you're necessarily not helping those other funds.
But we are assisting other funds, and recommendations do support momentum in that
Okay,
regard, and
thank
we
you.
just
I
highlighted some.
Appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Burns, you still here?
Yes, I'm here. I just want to say thank you, Mr. Dunkley. I respect you as a subject matter expert. I'm not the expert. I respect you for that. And your 2.5 years of dedicated service to our city, I appreciate that.
thank you. Mayor.
Thank you for the work that you've done on this budget. And we are fortunate to have someone of your caliber to have been here working on that. That's all I have to
Thanks,
say. Thank you.
I think I've already spoken. So we need a motion. What do you need to reread the resolution, or what do we?
No, I was just gonna say it's just a specific motion to approve resolution 173-24.
Okay.
And Mayor, I would ask for a roll call on this.
I intended to. I need a motion.
I'll make it. Motion to approve resolution number 173-24.
I need a second.
Second.
Okay. Please call the roll.
Commissioner Marker,
Yes.
Deputy Vice Mayor Long,
No.
Vice Mayor Cassell,
Yes.
Commissioner Burns,
Yes.
Mayor Carney.
Yes. Now we need to, we're going to be taking up 8C, which the presentation's been made. This is a public hearing.
So you don't wanna do 8B first?
Well, he only addressed 8A and 8C.
Oh, the DDA usually doesn't do a presentation.
You said
no?
we needed separate, you said we need
We can
separate.
do 8C. You have to open up, so let me read 8C, then we'll open it up. Resolution of the City Commission of the City of Delray Beach, Florida, approving a tentative budget for the fiscal year beginning on October 1st, 2024, and ending on September 30th, 2025, providing for severability or parts hereof if declared invalid, providing an effective date, and for other purposes. I just have one concern about doing this one before doing 8B.
Well, then,
is
would
that if this
you rather us
contemplates-
would you rather us
Yes.
take this out? Okay, that's fine.
Sorry.
Then we're going to be taking up 8B. Laura,
So let me just read this.
would you please read the resolution for 8B?
A resolution of the City Commission of the City of Delray Beach, Florida, certifying to the property appraiser and tax collector of Palm Beach County the proposed rate of millage to be levied by the City of Delray Beach within the Downtown Development Authority taxing district for the fiscal year beginning October 1, 2024, establishing the Downtown Development Authority taxing district proposed operating millage at 1.0000, providing for an effective date and for other purposes. The intent of the City Commission is to adopt an operating millage rate of 1.000, which is necessary to fund the cost of operations and maintenance for the Downtown Development Authority.
Commissioners, City Manager, Attorney, and City Clerk. I'm Alan Costello, Chair of the DDA. Thank you very much for appointing me a few weeks ago. I just wanted to step up and introduce Laura. And I wanted to say that 53 years ago, a group of great Delray Beach gentlemen went to the state and proposed a charter organization called the Downtown Development Association in order to help our parking problems and to build the economic vitality of a rather rundown downtown. These guys were great. They did a great job. I'm only going to mention two things that they did in the last 53 years because there's just so many. But they got the local businesses to donate for $10 the Ace Hardware Village lot to the downtown, to the city, I mean. And they got the group of local businessmen to donate the hundreds of spots in the railroad parking lot to the city for $10. Two amazing things, besides all the other things that we've done. Roy Simon, Laura's father, who passed away a few weeks ago, was one of those great men, and he's truly amazing. And now for the last 10 years, Laura has been the executive director of the Downtown Development Authority, and I, luckily, have gotten a chance to watch her grow and watch her grow the DDA. She's built great relationships, and she's built an amazing team. And in public announcements, if I ever get a chance to speak, I'm going to read something else to us that it's amazing about what she's accomplished. But for right now, to introduce the budget for this year, here's Laura.
Thank you. I didn't know we had an MC, but I appreciate it. Thank you, Al. And we also have Jim Knight, who is here, is also on our board, as actually the newly appointed treasurer, who's here with us tonight as well. So I do have a presentation that I'd like to share with the public and the commission, just to provide you with some background on our budget for the coming year. Just again, I just want to point out our mission as a Downtown Development Authority. Our downtown runs from 95 to A1A, and 4 blocks on the north side, 3 blocks on the south side of the core. But our mission is to stimulate, enhance, and sustain the economic vitality of the downtown and the quality of life enjoyed by locals and visitors. And what that means, and what our year has done, is to, again, reinvest the $1 million that is paid by the property owners and constituents like Al from Big Al Steaks into our budget to reinvest back into our community in the downtown, because the downtown is the heart and soul of our city, and it needs to be a thriving gem to really sustain our entire city. This year we'll see an increase of just about an 8% increase over the property values of the downtown core. We've seen a tremendous increase over the past 10 years of the property value, which has been a great success for our community. These outlined here, and I'm going to go through in more detail, but this is based on our statute. The funding we do as our ad valorem tax revenue plus interest, and then we also receive sponsorship and partnership and miscellaneous revenues throughout the year. We don't account for those until we accrue them, but we do see that anywhere from $60,000 to over $100,000 in revenue that comes in to help support our activities. And this does break down in these areas: marketing, economic vitality, placemaking. We have district grants and a downtown camera project that we are partnering with our police department on, and then our operations. So I just want to highlight, I'm going to speed through this because I know you want to get through tonight's meeting. But marketing of the downtown, this is all part of the economic vitality, and this breaks down. Marketing is essential to economic development and economic vitality of the downtown. We are the promoters of this destination, and the majority of our work goes into these areas of tools and assets and resources for our businesses and our residents and every visitors that come here. We are the destination marketing arm of the town. And then obviously this has actually been a huge focus for us over the past 25 years. And here's some just some areas of just highlights. We do, summer is a big focus because summer is our downtime and been a place for our businesses to ask for our help more than others. So we really invest most of that time for summer. And we've promoted over the past couple of years this Love Delray campaign, which is a summer promotion, as well as our, obviously, Shop Small. We've invested into our digital area, digital marketing, bringing a lot in-house, promoting videos, creating videos of the assets of our business community. This is just an example. Again, digital advertising is our bread and butter. We have over 150,000 followers socially, which is really what gets the word out in this world. We are going to be investing more into that this year, but also investing into a new website as well. Public relations, we have a huge public relations lift this year. It's been a tremendous effort from our team, getting Delray Beach positive news throughout the majority of the year, almost on a daily basis. Economic vitality, this area, we'll invest $226,000 into this area. This is business retention, business recruitment, business development, and that is really through a lot of the events and programs that we do, such as Shop Small, Art and Jazz, Savor the Avenue, Restaurant Month, which we currently are in. We kicked that off on September 1st. But also investing into this year, we're going to be investing into the West Atlantic more intentionally with new activations around Libby Plaza and also in our in the Set neighborhood. Also, just looking at building some more of our data. We've invested this year into Placer AI, which is a data platform. I'll get to that. This is just a slide of just some of the areas where we do invest into that business onboarding when we have new businesses that open up and promoting them so that we can get them off to a good start so we're not seeing quick turnover. And then also loving on those that have been here for the long haul, the 65-year businesses, 68. We have we call our legacy businesses. It's anywhere from 15 years or more. So we really want to hold on to them because it's a huge investment for us to get that back. Placer AI is an investment. It's a data trafficking. It's pedestrian traffic. So it really is quantifying what we're doing, quantifying our impact. And this was an investment we did this year. These are just a sample of what we can get. So we're using this for events. We're using this for our business impact to show where people are coming, just really the measurement. We're seeing over 10 million, 7 million people annually in downtown. So this is something to share with our city services to really know the numbers. So you can really see the actuals of what's happening and where they come from, where they go after, how long they spend, and what their habits are. So it's really getting into the AI technology of this. We are happy to share more of that, but it's a huge investment for us. Placemaking. So placemaking is we're going to be $521,000 of our budget will be invested into our place, which is the downtown. So this is the amenity, the operations, the backbone of this. So our big part of this area is our Safety Ambassador Program. So our Safety Ambassador Program is a 7-day-a-week safety support and security support and hospitality support of our downtown. These guys this has been we're in our 6th year, going in our 7th year, I believe, of this program, which has been a huge success, a huge asset to our public safety team, homeless task force, having over 300 interactions throughout the month. Each month they're seeing different people helping, supporting, guiding, and keeping our downtown clean and safe with the support of our city. We'll also, again, enhance, this is our place where we do the amenities such as our banners, lights, holiday decorations, and also parking management and promotion. So we will be looking to invest into the Libby Plaza and West Atlantic. We're adding new decorative lighting this year along West Atlantic Avenue from Swinton to 12th. We'll also be enhancing Libby Plaza with amenities there, and then upgrading our banners, street pole banners that are now cycling out. We have welcome banners, the Set banners, Pineapple Grove banners, so a huge investment in those amenities. And also looking to invest in 4th of July banners as well, that we have done that many years ago, and we'll look to do that, as well as decorating the town for those events. Parking, we invested in this year into marketing and promotions for our parking programs and have seen huge success from that. We'll continue to do that as part of something that we strive to do for just communicating out about our parking programs to the community. Again, just a highlight of our team and the lighting. And then the downtown camera project. So the police, the camera project, the real-time camera center, as you all heard a couple of meetings ago, the team is doing a fantastic job, and this is a huge need for this city to continue to see the number of people that we're seeing in this town, and to have eyes on it is extremely important for the safety of all of us. So Our board is highly supportive. So we'll be funding this year with an additional $30,000, which will give us a total of $60,000 to the police department to get those cameras installed hopefully very soon. We also have an art and activation grant program, which is something that we started after COVID to provide a way to fund back to both bring back the art investments into our community, whether it's through activities, events, or art installations in underutilized areas. So that is available for in increments of $2,000 or equal or 50% of the project. So that is available. So that is part of the funding we'll put into our budget for this year. Operations, so this is the backbone of our organization. This is the human element that makes the engine run. So again, building the capacity of our team. We've grown both experience-wise and team-wise over the years, but we get a lot for a little. And I love my team. They are rock stars, and they make the engine run for sure. And a lot of them are doing way more than we are paying them for sure. But it's also, again, it is a passion and a commitment, and they do love our town. So with that, I'm just going to share again the summary of the breakdown for the community and for you all. And I am here to answer any questions, as well as Al and maybe Jim, but I'm volunteering him. But I am available if you have any questions. And this is our first of the hearings. We will be back on the 16th for the second part of our public hearing.
Thank you very much. This is a public hearing, yes? This is a public hearing. Anyone who wishes to have any comments on the proposed DDA budget, now's the time to get up and address us. Give your name, address, etc. Seeing none. Public comment is closed. To the commission. Mr. Long?
Thank you.
Mr. Markert?
Great job, Laura. Al, welcome aboard. It's great to have you on board, and I think this looks great, Laura.
Thank you.
Commissioner Casal?
No, thank you.
Commissioner Burns?
No, thank
I
you.
have no comment either. Thank you very much. We need to have a resolution.
Motion to approve resolution number 174-24.
Second?
Please call the roll.
Deputy Vice Mayor Long,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Cassell,
Yes.
Commissioner Burns,
Yes.
Mayor Carney,
Yes?
Commissioner Markert.
Yes.
Fine. Now we're ready for 8C. Would you
Do you want me to read it again?
please? Because we need a motion to approve.
Resolution number 175-24, a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Delray Beach, Florida, approving a tentative budget for the fiscal year beginning on October 1st, 2024, and ending on September 30th, 2025, providing for severability of parts hereof if declared invalid, providing an effective date and for other purposes, and this too is a public hearing.
Right. The presentation has already been made. Are there any comments from any members of the comment? This is from the gallery here. Seeing none, to the commission. Commissioner Long?
Good.
Commissioner Markert?
I'm good.
Commissioner Casal? Commissioner Burns?
Yeah.
Then I need a motion to approve.
Motion to approve resolution number 175-24.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Fine. Thank you. Would you please call the roll?
Vice Mayor Cassell,
No, I'm sorry.
Commissioner Burns,
Yes.
Mayor Carney,
Yes?
Commissioner Markert,
Yes.
Deputy Vice Mayor Long.
No.
Okay. Are we going to continue with the 8s until we finish it?
I would, it's related. It's this capital improvement budget.
Okay. Missy Barletto?
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. Missy Barletto, Public Works Director. With my backup singers tonight, I have Hassan Hajimiri, Utilities Director, and Sam Mitat, Director of Parks and Recreation.
The Barletto Trio. There we go.
Yes.
I'm waiting to see Hassan dance.
It's a treat. Okay, so we're here tonight to present the Capital Improvement Fund one last time. You've seen it a couple of times. It will be back for final adoption next week on the 16th, but that presentation will be by Development Services. So the total CIP funding budget for the coming year is $253,474,589. And I will show you what has changed since the last time that we were here, which was on July 19th. So of the total CIP funding since the original presentation of the budget on July 9th is increased by $2,558,390. The things that have changed in the budget since that time, we removed the Andrews Avenue safety improvements and the Parks and Recreation restroom trailer at the request of Commission. We have adjusted the budget based on what the CRA's proposed budget is to reflect how our requests from the CRA for funding projects are being reflected in their budget. Some of those will not appear in the final budget book until after this meeting. Those include the Merritt Park shade structure and also the Carver Square Park new playground equipment, as well as a reduced amount of request for funding for the Northwest Neighborhood Project. This year they'll be giving us just over $8 million as opposed to the $20 million that we had asked for. So all of those things together, plus we got, since the last time we talked to you about the capital improvement project, we have been notified that there are 2 new grant awards. One is from the Federal Highway Administration, which is an 80% grant to perform a citywide transportation safety plan. And we've also been notified by the Palm Beach County Transportation Planning Agency that the second phase of Barwick Road construction will be funded in the near future. So we'll be starting on the design for that in the coming year. Other things, there were 2 beach projects that had been in the FY24 budget that we weren't able to process through getting under contract this year, and we've added those back into the FY25 budget in Fund 377. So additionally, the Commission directed us to decrease our dependency on the fund balance in the capital improvement plan to provide for the beach renourishment project. We did that by redirecting funds from the gas tax into the general construction fund and shifting projects in the infrastructure surtax fund to support the decreased dependence on the fund balance, which that included shifting our annual roadway reconstruction projects, the mill and resurfacing that we do on residential roads. We shifted that out to a future year, so we will not be doing that in the coming year. Those roadway funds will be redirected to projects like Old Germantown Road, Barwick Road, the first phase from Atlantic to Lake Ida Road, North Swinton roadway improvements, and other Lindell Boulevard is the other construction project that will be supported this year. Additionally, the other $200,000 in cost decreases that allowed us to reduce that fund balance were a very robust negotiation process with the construction contractor.
You mean
for-
reduce dependency on fund balance, not
Is
to
that not what I
reduce-
said?
It is not.
Oh, well, thank you for paying attention. Reduce dependency on the fund balance. We negotiated that contract down $200,000, resulting in that additional savings. So at this point, I can go through the next 20 slides again and show you every fund summary balance if you want to run through all the projects again, or we're open to questions.
To the commission, do you want to see the whole, all the projects again?
Oh, no.
That would be a no.
I thought that might be the answer.
Thank you.
I'll just simply say great work again. You guys have done, I feel like, gymnastics to make this all work. I am very disappointed that we have to kind of punt all the milling and resurfacing projects around the city. I think that's extremely important. We have a lot of roads that are pretty beat up. Happen to live on one. And I know you mentioned Old Germantown Road still happening, thank God. But like, I am disappointed that we have to push that out. I think that's something that's essential that we should always be doing. So I'll still support it because I feel like it's great. You did your best work here, and it's still a really good budget for this. But I will say I'm disappointed about that. But I don't blame your department for it.
If I could address that, since for over the last several years, we've been working on catching up with deferred maintenance for many years ago, and we are at the point now where most of the roadway repairs that we can accomplish through mill and resurface have been done. We have a new software program that does our pavement condition indexing every day. The sensors are attached to all of our city vehicles.
Wow.
So every time we drive across a roadway, it's in real time telling us what that roadway condition is. A lot of the roads that you see now that are in need of work actually are going to require improvements to the base. So while we've been doing miles of roadway reconstruction every year, that's going to slow down. Now we'll be starting to work on doing design, because once we get into that base reconstruction, then we have to do a more robust design. Mill and resurface really doesn't require that.
Right. Will we be working on any of those, the ones where we have to go further into the subgrade and basically rebuild the road, or any of those slated for, have those been affected, I guess is my question.
We won't be starting the design on those this year, although some of the TPA projects that we are doing this year will include some full depth restoration,
Right.
like North Swinton Roadway is one of those.
Got it. Okay. Thank you.
Before we go to the rest of the commission, this is a public hearing. If there's any members of the public who wishes to get up and address the commission on this matter, please come to the podium, be sworn in. Seeing one. Your name and address for the record, please. Do you need to be sworn? No. Okay.
Hi, my name is Jennifer Jones. I live at 639 Kimberg Circle. I don't know if it's an appropriate question to ask. In one of the slides, you have the city CIP projects, and in the amount, is that the expected budget for those projects, and what's the difference between the city request versus the proposed CRA budget amount? I'm looking at the line that says Northwest Neighborhood Infrastructure Improvement Project.
So the city has a big dependence on the CRA for projects in the coming year, and they have a limited budget, the same as everyone else. So we will be embarking on construction of the Pompey Park Community Center and the entire park redevelopment in the coming year. The funds that the CRA had left to provide us for this year are the $8 million for the Northwest neighborhood. That's plenty of money for what we need for the coming year. Some of these projects, traditionally, the city used to do capital improvement program funding where all of the money for a particular project had to be available in advance. the size of the projects that we're doing now, we really can't afford to do that. So we do what is called cash flow budgeting for the projects. So each year we budget for what we will use in that coming year, and then we project out into future years the rest of what we'll need. So for the Northwest neighborhood, in this coming year, we have the just over $8 million budgeted from the CRA. We also have a federal grant coming for just a little bit over $1 million to supplement that. But in the FY26 budget, we're asking for just under $20 million to make up the difference between what we asked for this year and what we received. And then in FY27 and in FY28, we have projected that we'll be asking for about $25 million each year of those. Does that help answer your question?
It does. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other members of the public? Seeing none, public comment is closed. Commissioner Commissioner, do you have anything more to add? No. Okay. Commissioner Marker.
Nothing.
Commissioner Casal. Commissioner Burns.
I just have a question. I heard you mention, I think I got it right, Carver Square Park. The funds, were the funds taken away for that, or will that project go ahead?
It's another instance that we didn't get the project through into contract this year. So with the CRA, we don't roll over funds from one year to the next. We return the funds to the CRA and we rebudget those funds for the coming year. So that money it's a paperwork process. In that the $360,000 was available now, it will be available again next year. We just have to ask for it again because it didn't get encumbered this year.
If I may, that is a playground we're looking to move forward with.
Okay.
It's not one of the reductions that we took off of this list. We're just making sure it's added now as the rollover, as Ms. Barletto said, from last year's project that we're just about to finalize, but we won't have it ready to go by the end of September. So we want to make sure it's encumbered into this new year again so that we can finish that project.
Okay.
And just to follow up, the CRA has agreed that is part of their budget. That it's included in their budget for this coming year.
Yes, sir.
Right. Okay. Any other questions? I need a
Motion to approve the 2025 through 2029 capital improvement program budget.
Second.
Please call the roll.
Commissioner Burns,
Yes.
Mayor Carney,
Yes.
Commissioner Marker,
Yes.
Deputy Vice Mayor Long,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Cassell.
Yes.
Great. Okay, we're now going to the regular agenda. No, we're not.
No, 5A.
No. Right?
5A.
For a,
We're at public comment, right?
Oh, we didn't do 4A. 4A.
there's a presentation for a,
Oh,
Mr.
4A,
Duncan.
I'm sorry.
Do that in light of the presentation we just had.
It's required by the budget, I think, by the charter.
Quarterly financial review, charter requirement.
Mr. Dunkley.
Yes, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Deputy Vice Mayor, members of the commission, thanks once more for just allowing us to present to you the financial condition of the city as of June 30th. So the city's total budget, inclusive of the capital projects fund, amounts to $451 million, the lion's share of which is the general fund. Not to disparage the other funds, we'll be focusing on the general fund primarily because the other funds are either donor restricted or restricted in some manner. So therefore, the general fund, we have a little bit more latitude, and it represents what we see as the city's core services: fire protection, police services, parks and recreation, and so forth. So the general fund budget for the year, the amended budget is $191 million. Of that, $113 million comes from taxes. When I say taxes, I'm speaking of general property taxes, utility taxes, communication services taxes, those coupled together make up a good bit of the budget. As of the June 30th, we're about 82% of the year. Excluding the tax row, we could see that most of the revenue lines are at 75% or slightly below, except for the tax roll. That is largely so because most people pay their taxes well before March 31st, which is typically the deadline for tax payment. So we collect a lion's share of the property taxes beforehand. In terms of the expenses, the personnel services are close to the 75% mark. Some of the other categories of expenditures are slightly below the 75%, and you'll see that playing out at the department level, where some departments are significantly below the 75%. But most of the departments, which I will shift to that slide, are at or close to 75% in personnel services, but they're well below in operating expenses and other types of expenses. But the sum total of it is that the general fund as a whole is at 73% of its budget as of June 30th of the year. So if we look at the revenue and expense data for the selected funds, and these funds they generate most of their revenues through user fees and charges, and they're a little bit compartmentalized because the fee payers, the payers for the services, they pretty much, it's an exchange-like transaction where they pay for the services and they receive the services likewise. So as of June 30th, all of these funds, their revenues exceeded the expenditures. That's the greatest takeaway from this slide. Between the building fund, sanitation, water and sewer, and stormwater, none are at a deficit when you look at their revenues and expenses. In terms of our cash and investment position, we have, had actually since it's June 30th, about $165 million in total cash and investments, and it's broken up into three main buckets. The first of which is our bank deposits, which is roughly $27.8 million. We have our liquidity portfolio that is managed in-house, and that has a short-term orientation. The core portfolio is managed externally, that has a longer-term orientation, and the total there is $165 million for those three coupled together. If you look at, I know it's a little bit small and I apologize, but basically the portfolio performance for the city's investments for the past 3 months, we actually beat the benchmark. We had 99 basis points, which is roughly a little bit less than 1%. We could round it off to 1%. The benchmark had 0.94%. Even subtracting our fee for managing the funds, we have a net return of 97 basis point, or 0.97%, compared to the benchmark of 94 basis point. If you look at the 1, 3, 5, and 10-year marks, we've also exceeded the benchmark. You look at the furthest duration, the benchmark was 1.14%. The portfolio earned gross of fees 1.4. Even net of fees 1.33. We've kind of outpace the benchmark. All in all, the city's investable resources we feel are at a good place at this point in time, and we simply would just like to keep it at that. We foresee that the interest rates will be trending down in the coming months, and the portfolio is so weighted to take that into consideration. And with that said, I'm available for any questions that you might have.
Commissioner Casal.
No, I just expressed my concerns about utilizing the reserves as a means of balancing our budget for our general funds.
Understood.
Thank you.
Vice Mayor,
Oh, and Mr. Moore, just one other question. You had indicated that the overtime in the fire department would subside in light of the hiring of the 22 new individuals. When did that hiring occur?
It occurred over the last few months.
Okay, so because it was like 856,000 in the last 3 months. So you think it goes down in the last quarter?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Burns. Commissioner Markert.
Thank you very much, Hugh. That was great.
Commissioner Long. Okay. Need a motion to approve.
No, it's just a presentation.
Oh, it's just a presentation. Okay, we don't need to approve. Thank you. Obviously, we wouldn't have gotten it. Okay. Comments and inquiries on agenda items. City manager's response to prior comments and inquiries.
Yes, sir. I have a few items. And first of all, I'd like to briefly introduce the city's new Chief Procurement Officer, Mr. Gene Bedecker. If you can just stand up, you don't have to come forward and leave. I just wish for you to please be recognized. Say hello from afar to the city commissioner. You've had an opportunity to say hello to a couple individuals as you're making your rounds. But again, just to underscore that he'll be a feature at commission meetings as we engage in transaction considerations. So once again, welcome aboard. Much appreciated. Secondly, as far as some of the projects we've spoken about, I've underscored via information letter reports recently regarding some updates, major project happenings. So I just thought I'd bring to y'all's attention after engaging with the Department of Public Works and others to offer these updates for respective community meetings coming up. So the adaptation plan, Dairy Beach adaptation plan, Wednesday, September 18th, 6 p.m. So we're looking at the Swinton Operational Complex for that to take place, we think, as well as the North Swinton Avenue pre-construction meeting. I offered an update to this effect via the information letter report this past Friday, August 30th, whereby we will have a kickoff Thursday, September 19th at 6 o'clock over at the Swinton Operation Complex, and the week after that, Swinton and Atlantic intersection improvements. So those are projects in which a number of people in the community have a burning desire to see get implemented. Therefore, I thought it would be a great idea to update the public here at the City Commission meeting that those opportunities are forthcoming. A couple questions, of course, continue to be experienced relative to the golf course design that was recently approved by the City Commission. So for the Dairy Beach Municipal Golf Course design activities, working with Sanford, as well as for the Old Germantown Road improvements projects, you've mentioned your appreciation, Mr. Long, for that continuing to go forward. Necessary community meetings will kick off in the month of October. So forthcoming is a great way to kick off the new fiscal year, we think, and therefore I thought it was appropriate that we highlight the positive trajectory in those regards in terms of why we are where we are. With that, Mr. Mayor, ladies and gentlemen, I yield at this time. Thank you.
Thank you very much. This comments from the public on agenda and non-agenda items. Any member of the public who wishes to speak, please come up to the podium, give your name and address, and you will each have 3 minutes.
Good evening, everyone.
Hello.
Mayor, City Manager, can you pass that over? I thank Mayor
Name and address, please.
Patrick Glover, 219 Northwest 10th Avenue, Delray Beach, Florida, 33444.
Thank you.
I thank Mayor Corney, one of our board members, President Kathy sent you some information regarding our...
She did.
Okay, on that link as well, there's something regarding our Health and Wealth Symposium. Our Family Business Line Order Go LLC, we came up with a symposium platform a couple years back, and it's been a great fit for our community. A lot of the commission, Burns as well, has participated. A lot of A-list celebrities have come back to our community, meaning King Richard Williams. He was a good family friend of ours, a good business partner of mine. And now we're going into this next Health and Wealth Symposium. We do multiple pop-ups throughout the year, and it's revolving around cancer research as well. We have a mobile RV partnership with the University of Miami Cancer Sylvester Research Comprehensive. So that's our logo, that's our Lion Over Gold logo on the left-hand side. What we want to do is see how we could come together as a joint venture partnership collaboratively with the city, as well as our company, to see how we could kind of expand it. Our home right now has been, for the symposium, Pompey Park, which we look to revisit it again this year. We secured everything, and I think we could do a lot more with just a bigger, more partnership from the city government, a collaborative effort. We're helping a lot of people transition from a downward health and wealth state to an upward health and wealth state. And again, I think we can do a lot together. Our pop-up is at September 19th, the Delray Med Spa next to the men's room. We partnered with them. You'll see the big mobile RV out front. We reached out to Assistant Chief and Chief as well, Hunter, in reference to bringing the mobile RV in, having the police department and all other departments work with us collectively to, bring more light to cancer and research and to prevent a lot of these things from happening. So we thank you for the things that you've done in the past and currently for our company, and to see exactly, how we can expand and have a bigger joint venture partnership. Our forecast budget for the upcoming year is probably about $900,000. We're looking to do a lot more development. We just purchased a lot, 248 Northwest 5th Avenue, right around the corner, and we're going to be building a single-family home as a health and wealth home. One of our first, we said that I, myself, and King Richard Williams would build about 75 of them, but now we want to do about more like 250 maybe units or somewhere in that mind frame. And we've met with the CRA and other walks within the city government. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, sir.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Deputy Vice Mayor, and Commissioners. My name is Jim Knight. My address is 85 Southeast 4th Avenue. That's my business address. I live in Boca Raton, but my office has been here for 33 years in Delray. The past 25 has been in downtown Delray. A couple of questions. First of all, I appreciate you guys workshopping 9A. Unfortunately, I'm going to be out of town that day. I'm going to try to fly back. I'm going to be up in Charleston with the family. I haven't gone anywhere this summer yet, so we're going to be up there, but I may be able to fly back for the day for the workshop. A couple of questions I had, and I know you're not supposed to answer from the public, but if it's possible, is there a way for the public to attend remotely? If the commission's attending remotely, is there any way that can happen? I know sometimes with the county it doesn't. That doesn't have to be answered right now, but one of the concerns I have is that this zoning in progress has been going on for 16 months, give or take, right? It's been in front of 4 boards. All 4 boards unanimously approved it, right? Was there any public input? I mean, I don't believe so. I attended, I believe, one, which was the Planning and Zoning Board meeting. And I know that I think it might have been first reading at the Planning and Zoning Board. And there were a number of questions that the Planning and Zoning Board members had, but I don't believe they've been answered yet. I submitted I'm not going to read it here tonight and bore you all, you got enough going on, but I did submit an email to you all last week. I got a response from a couple of you all. Hopefully those questions will be answered. I am a little concerned if you're having a workshop now, only 7 days out. I'm the one that's called a few of the property owners out there and a few of the business owners out there that had no idea about this. And I think one of the commissioner's comments was, what is the burden that's happening? The big guys, the big, huge developers, they got plenty of money. Charge them whatever you want. They can make it happen and pay the big bills, whatever else, so forth. But the small businesses and so forth that may want to redevelop their properties, things like that, so forth, that burden of going from $23,000 to $50,000 a space is a big number. Again, for the big companies, huge projects, not a big deal. So hopefully some of these questions can get answered, or there's a way that we could, push the workshop back just a little bit further. I know that the zoning in progress has been going on for 16 months. What's another month or two? And one of the reasons I'd say stop the zoning in progress, Are there 10 applications, 5 applications, 1 application right now trying to do it with the in lieu? I suspect there's probably not any right now because over 54 years it was utilized 42 times. And I get the difference between the cost of a parking space today and what they're charging. That's all understandable. But if you look historically, Old School Square Garage and the Federspiel Garage, I believe they were paid through bonds and things like that and so forth, not just out of the in lieu fees. So hopefully those questions get answered. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Hi, my name is Billy Roach, 1011 Seagate Drive, Delray. It's my first time here. I emailed the mayor a few weeks ago requesting a meeting to address safety concerns I have for the barrier island. I didn't receive a response, so I thought I'd address the commission as a whole. During these divisive times, I've watched a lot of these meetings remotely, and I've noticed there's a lot of back and forth and divisiveness within the commission. And I just would like to say that there's a public safety is a unifying and nonpartisan issue that's crucial to a thriving Delray Beach. I've been here for 4 years. I have a 10-year-old daughter. And it's definitely a concern at the moment. I'd say the tourism, business, real estate market in Delray hinges greatly in the confidence that Delray is a safe place for people to vacation and live. I have concerns. I want to make sure the commission and the city government realizes the importance of properly funding the police. I've spoken to the chief about this. I'm formally requesting increased patrols and presence on the barrier island more specifically. Most recently, this kind of got me to come here. Friday, I was waking up by helicopters over my house. Early morning hours near Seagate and Sea Sage, it was confirmed by a Delray Beach police officer there was a Haitian boat smuggling narcotics, and they got out of the boat, and one was caught on my street, and it was confirmed the other got away. I actually had a recent example of this within the past year. I had 5 men at my door, trying my door handle, feeling the hood of my car, and trying to get into my house. I had my 10-year-old watching a movie upstairs. I called the police, 911. It took 15 minutes for them to come, and they couldn't find him. They got away, and I asked the police, what else could I do? I mean, I've been here 4 years. I was from the Philadelphia area. I've never experienced this. My wife walks in the neighborhoods, followed, tinted windows, multiple safety concerns, and he said, be armed. Specifically, be armed. And several other police, I have contacts in other jurisdictions, say the same thing. Recently, national news, there's Venezuelan gangs taking over apartment buildings in Colorado. Our country's being invaded. So I just think they need to take it very seriously. There's a presidential election coming up, and a unifying, no matter who you're for, a unifying issue is public safety for your kids, for grandkids, and we all need to look out for each other. And I want to, more specifically, the officer that responded said there was only 2 patrols, two units on the whole barrier island. And I think with the amount of tax money I pay, top 1% of all the taxes collecting, ridiculous amount of money I just got you up my door bill, that I think we need more presence, and I think that the police department needs to be funded because rough times are ahead with this election coming up, and I think that the police need to be supported, and the people who pay taxes and fund the city need to be supported. So.
Thank you very much.
Montre Bennett, 323 Northwest 2nd Avenue in the beautiful city of Delray Beach. First, I want to say thank you, Commissioner Burns, for appointing me to the Delray Beach Public Arts Board, or Arts Advisory Board. It's a pothole on MLK, and it's not big, but it's medium big. I think that thing need to get filled ASAP. I can't call what street it's on, but you will see it because it's noticeable. The mausoleum at the cemetery, when will it be completed? We know the cemetery is filled to capacity for sure. I mean, that thing packed. Well, and from the budget, it looked like the money was taken out of it from that project to be completed. So I just want some clarity about that. Get into the phone. September is Suicide Awareness Month. On September 21st at 7:45 a.m., meet me at the pavilion at the beach, and let's take a mindful walk in the water. Put on your swim gear so you will get wet. And just like I said early on in the year, that water is really rising, and there ain't nothing we can do about it. I go to the beach every morning, almost every day, and it is encroaching. So I'm inviting y'all to come out on the 21st so y'all can see that water and see them waves and really cleanse your body and free yourself for that negative energy. Respect go a long way. Let people talk. Get them their space to talk and let them do what they do. Ashe, I'm complete.
Thank you very much.
Bonsoir, good evening. My name is Jennifer Jones. I am a resident of Delray, 639 Kingberg Circle. Distinguished commissioners, I'm here as the public relations for the Volunteer Association in Front of Florida, which is an organization that represents the Haitian Americans in Delray. I wanted to address some concerns that we have in our community, especially regarding an issue that was highlighted by our vice mayor in the last commission meeting. The Haitian American population in Delray constitutes a substantial percentage of our residents. Palm Beach County has one of the largest minority concentration of Haitians per capita, more than any other county in Florida, but in South Florida, one of the largest. And we do have a growing population of migrating Haitians coming into Florida. Our Haitian community is one of the largest minority ethnic groups that's represented in our county. And as a community leader who's worked diligently to bridge the gap that we have between cultures and languages here, one of the projects that we hold very close to our heart is having our resource center here in Palm Beach County, preferably in Delray, not only because of the amount of residents that we have that are Haitian, but also because being leaders in Delray, we do recognize the capacity that we have to truly represent our community. And some of the comments I've heard from the days honestly have left me kind of distraught in regards to this situation. As a resident of Delray, as the leader in my community, I would love to see our beautiful city represent and house a center like this. I understand that there's a need to protect the city from undue burden, but to shut off any options of working with the city feels premature and unfair. As an organization, we've been in touch with the county and with county officials in regards to this. And all we're asking is that the dais remains with open mind in regards to this issue. I appreciate Commissioner Burns and Commissioner Long for standing up for us, and as well as Mayor Carney for keeping an open mind when it comes to this project. I've heard the city manager mention that we're working with the county and that the county will come with a presentation. And I'm just asking you to keep an open mind when it comes to this project. It's something that is really important to us as a community. I'm thankful for the opportunity to have this happen in Delray, and I'm looking forward to working with all of you so that we can meet the needs of our community, we can adjust them, and we can see this happen. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Merci beaucoup.
Hi, Dr. Alan Costello, Big Al Steaks, 450 East Atlantic Avenue, as a citizen or as a taxpayer, and Dr. Alan Costello as chair of the DDA. I'm really excited. This weekend, I was at the Buffett concert. I know some of you were there. A couple of thousand people came. The setup was amazing. The DDA did an unbelievable job. A week before the Journey concert, a couple of thousand people came. Same setup, amazing. The DDA has done an amazing job with the grounds at the Old School Square, and we just won a really prestigious award for it. And I'm just going to read this is the best way for me to say it. It'll be under 2 minutes, so it's fine. Okay. The Delray Beach Downtown Development Authority announced today it's been recognized with a top industry award from the International Downtown Association for its revitalization of Delray Beach's Old School Square. As the premier organization for urban place professionals who are shaping and activating dynamic city center districts, the IDA recognizes outstanding projects each year as winners of the Downtown Achievement Awards, which identify improvements to urban centers around the world, over the globe. The DDA has been responsible for operating, maintaining, and programming our cultural heart in downtown Delray, the Old School Square, maintaining programming activities, exhibitions, and special events on the Old School campus, which includes the Cornell Art Museum, obviously the Amphitheater Vintage Gym, since December of 2022. The The DDA's revitalization efforts since then, which are referenced in the award-winning entry, include the following. Brought life to the Cornell Art Museum with 15 rotating art exhibitions featuring more than 300 regional artists, in addition to reopening the museum store. Activated the entire Old School Square campus with 150 plus events, including innovative and interactive art displays for all ages, concerts, festivities, and markets. Attracted approximately 350,000 individuals to the downtown Delray Beach campus, managed and operated all private events, launched a new brand identity for the campus and brought it to life with purposeful public relations, digital marketing, social media, and street signage, and delivered an economic impact on downtown Delray of more than $8 million. I'm really proud, and I wanted to make sure we heard, and again, thank you for allowing me to be on the board again so that I could be a part of this. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Any other members of the public wish to address the commission? Seeing none, public comment is closed. We now need a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? None. Okay, good. Thank you. We're now going to 7AA, which is formerly 6A. Commissioner Casal, you pulled this matter.
I did. I had requested something specific in the minutes, but I don't think it made it there. With respect to Mr. Moore's contract and that we weren't in compliance, he agreed that it was okay to move his consideration for review off to October, and I just wanted to make sure that we had documented that in the minutes because of his contract. So if you don't mind amending that, okay. I believe it was 7AA on the 19th. Thank you so much.
Great. Any comment? Do we need a motion then to approve 7AA as amended by, well?
You can do a motion to approve as amended, or you can just defer it till the next meeting to confirm that the changes were made.
That's fine. What's the consensus? Shall we just defer it to the next meeting?
Sure.
Yeah. Okay, fine.
Thank you.
We're just deferring to the next meeting.
Thank you.
Okay, next item is 7A, the nomination to the Planning and Zoning Board. Mr. Markert, you have this, you have to choose one qualified member to serve an unexpired term.
Yeah, I would like to nominate Jeff Meiselman.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Congratulations, Mr. Meiselman. Nomination for appointment to the Green Implementation Board. This is Vice Mayor Casal.
Thank you. I'll nominate Adam Jones.
Do we have a second?
Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? None. Great. That takes care of that. 9A has been done. So we go moving straight to 9B.
Ordinance number 26-24, an ordinance of the City Commission of the City of Delray Beach, Florida, updating the capital improvement plan schedule and the comprehensive plan of the City of Delray Beach for fiscal year 2024-25 to fiscal year 2028-29 in accordance with the requirements of policies CIE 1.2.1 and CIE 1.2.6 of the capital improvement element, providing a conflicts clause, providing a severability clause, providing an effective date, and for other purposes, and this is first reading.
Great. Anthea?
No, we're just,
There's no
are we
presentation.
doing?
There's no presentation?
No.
Motion
Okay.
to approve ordinance number 26-24.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Great. Comments from the city manager? No, you just walk. It's fine. I know you can run. I mean, I can't, but I know you can. You and Julie are the tennis players.
Yep. Actually pretty good at that. Actually, originally I did not. However, Vice Mayor Casal, I'd like to tighten up on a response to an inquiry you made a little while ago regarding the Delray Beach Fire Rescue Department.
Yes.
So
Thank you, Chief.
Well, the net additional positions are 12.
Yes.
And the hiring process actually was initiated a couple months ago.
Okay.
So we'll be wrapping that up in the coming weeks, which should likewise realize the continued reductions in overtime. However, we have been experiencing reductions in
You have
overtime to
compared
that
to the
effect.
prior
So I
quarter.
just wish to
Yes, thank you so
reemphasize that to clarify the tightness of the hiring process as to when that will be concluded.
Thank you.
Thank you. Otherwise, I yield. Thank you.
Great. Comments by the city attorney?
None.
Comments by the city commission? Mr. Long? Mr. Marker?
I just have one comment. I would like to see Mr. Moore, if there's consensus up here, an update on where we are with the Crest Theater in terms of our options and what we're thinking about. And I just think I'm getting a lot of questions from citizens about it, and I don't fully know what's going on and kind of where we are and what our thinking is and what our timelines are.
Sure.
And I think that would be really beneficial at some point.
So what I like to do is this, because I am scheduling individual meetings with you all, along with leadership from the Department of Public Works and others involved in the project, to outline and summarize what this will all entail. What I think I like to do, however, for the September 16th meeting via City Manager's report at the beginning, 5A, is to offer a brief update in terms of what the steps are to get to that place, because some of that was initiated. This way, the elected officials can have a sense publicly as to what that looks like and where do we go from here. However, that will then translate into individual discussions to outline what that looks like, because there is some external consultancy involved. Yep. One step, but there's another piece that's pending, and I'd like to offer a brief update to that effect. So with that, I'll simply ask the office of the city clerk, if you would, Ms. Givings, just to make a footnote to that effect for the September 16th meeting, and we'll offer a brief update in terms of the steps we must undertake in order to get to the place you've just described. From there, I look forward to hosting individual visits as noted.
We were having a little word. September 16th is the update for the Crest Theater.
Okay.
And I'll tighten up tomorrow morning during the executive leadership team meeting, so I'll be happy to facilitate that.
Thank you for that. That's perfect. Thank you.
Yes, sir. You're welcome.
Sorry, I forgot I wanted to quickly address Mr. Knight's comments. I'm actually fine with punting that workshop and extending the zoning in progress a little longer, mainly because I won't be here for it. I don't know if I'll be able to tune in or not. I'll be flying in and out that day. So I would prefer to move it, but also just for the sake of, if we do it, to save Mr. Knight a flight, we don't typically have any comment during workshops anyway. So you'll be able to watch it online, same as you'd be watching it from the audience. You wouldn't be able to comment on it either way. So it wouldn't be worth you flying the whole way here just to sit here and watch it when you could watch it from your computer, in North Carolina.
Unless it's the commission's view that they would like comment on the matter, which we can allow.
Can we do that?
The chair can allow it.
You can. You
Oh,
have
okay,
discretion.
my bad. Okay, I didn't know we could do that.
So
Okay.
we'll make that decision.
Cool.
Yeah,
Mayor, I'm sorry, I did have one thing. The zoning in progress, do you want me to extend it, and for how long?
It's looking like we need to extend it, so if there's consensus, I think we can move it back a month.
Do you need a motion on that?
I just need consensus, but typically we do 180 days, or until such time as an ordinance is adopted. We can do 90. I wouldn't do 30 because it expires October 17th, so if staff needs more time to draft this, depending on the changes, it might have to go through the board process all over again. And so I would recommend 180 days, and then at that point, that should be plenty of time.
Okay, but I'd like a tighter date. I mean, if you're saying 180 because but
I can do December 31st if you want. So I mean, it's your pleasure, but I don't want to have to keep bringing it back. I guess is what
and
I'm
I
trying
don't want to
say.
keep it hanging out there without
Understood.
a resolution. So,
So how long?
what's the consensus on the commission?
I like December 31st, if that works for everyone.
So you want me to extend it to December 31st?
Fine.
Perfect. Okay.
We're gonna have a workshop on the 30th to take care of it.
Clearly.
So Rob will be there. No problem.
Not a workshop, a second reading. Thank you.
Anything else?
That's all I got, sorry.
Okay, fine. Commissioner Casal?
So thank you to the DDA. That's a great award, and you deserve it. Every event is just more amazing than the last. The food trucks, the lighting across the green area. It was spectacular, and I thoroughly enjoyed myself. So did my child. So thank you so much. I appreciate you. I need to make a motion to reconsider the August 19th appointment to the Historic Preservation Board, because that appointment impacts the residents, or can impact them financially, because with respect to matching grants.
Wait, can we have a second?
Second, for discussion, I just want to better understand this, because I know there were some appointments made of unqualified people to planning and zoning recently, but this is different because it could impact our ability to get grants if there's folks on HPB that are not considered qualified.
It's probably better to answer this, but the short of it is that in order to be able to qualify for certain matching grants to the state, you need to have qualified, and I think it's 5 qualified persons on the board. So, did I say that right?
Yes.
And so right now, we don't have that number.
Okay.
What board is that?
The Historic Preservation Board, because there were 4 appointments.
Good evening, Anthea Geniotis, Development Services Director for the record. So it's called, we are established as a certified local government, and when we have that status, one of which is related to the composition of the board, when we apply for a grant, they're called small matching grants. We have one right now that we're wrapping up, which is a historic resource survey of the city's cemetery. The city doesn't actually have to provide a match. We just got $50,000 to do that small historic research effort. So if we don't meet the certified local government, then it's no longer free money. There has to be a match. There's other benefits as well, but the biggest one is that that ability to secure grants with no match, despite the title of small matching grants.
Right. Thank you, and I'm sorry I wasn't paying close enough attention on that evening.
Okay, I mean, listen, I'll support it. It's a bit, frankly, annoying that we can make exceptions for some boards and not this one, but I understand why we can't make an exception for this one. Thank you for the explanation. Yeah, no, I get it, and so I respect that, and so I'll be in favor of reconsidering the vote, and I'll defer my reappointment till the next meeting, I guess.
Thank you.
So we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, great.
Second item. Lynn, I'm going to put Lynn on the spot and ask her to talk a little bit about the Cigna contract. This came about in a most bizarre way because it started with an inter-fund transfer from the sewer and water fund for 753 some odd thousand that started begetting a lot of questions about our claims. And I'm sorry, am I interrupting you guys?
No.
Okay,
No.
thanks. About our
pouring water.
claims.
Try not to spill
Are you
it on me.
spilling it all over him? Lovely. It's been a long day. I'm sorry. I know. The claims, in one meeting, Mr. Moore, you discussed money that was related to, actually, Mr. Dunkley talked about claims, and then you said, no, it's policy costs, which we weren't even looking for a policy at that time. Long and the short of it is there was a lot of questions, and then it came down to a question of, was the procurement situation with the Cigna contract an issue? And Lynn, if you could give the information that we've discussed over time, if you don't mind, because I can't do a great job of explaining to everybody the timeline and what's transpired.
So we did hire we have a benefits consultant, Garing Group, that assists the city in these types of benefits solicitations. You know, technically our code doesn't require us, our purchasing policies don't require us to do a solicitation, but if you're going to engage in one, you should at least, strive to follow the basic tenets of procurement. I was made aware of some things that occurred during the solicitation that didn't make me feel comfortable with the city moving forward, because as you all know, that if we have a solicitation and one of the proposers doesn't think that they got a fair shot, they can file what's called a bid protest and kind of slow things down and make a lot of extra work for the city. When I was made aware of it, I did contact Mr. Moore, and I let him know my concerns. At this point, my position is that for the city to move forward with a contract, and I believe it was going to go on the next agenda for you because the contract does expire October 1st. I had concerns, and I had concerns that potentially, somebody else who submitted a proposal could have a basis to object to it and file something. And I'm getting into the weeds, but the bottom line is I don't feel comfortable moving forward with that contract. I have been in communication with Cigna's attorney, and he's aware of my position, and he actually, I think, agrees with me. So what's essentially going to happen is I think HR will be working to extend the current contract for 1 year, so our employees don't need to be concerned that they're not going to have coverage or things like that. We can do that, and it's going to have to just be redone.
So with that, we will have a presentation. I'm speaking with the benefits broker tomorrow. In addition to the recommendation to extend the existing agreement 1 year so that we can tighten up in terms of the future selection process having just been discussed, I think it's important that you all hear directly from the benefits broker because cities rely heavily in that regard so that these types of processes can be adequately facilitated. So I think we're on the same accord
And if I could add to that, I was speaking with the city attorney about why, I guess one of my questions is, why aren't some of these larger contracts kind of funneling through her department? Should we have the contract person who's assessing our contracts in the city be in the legal department versus purchasing or elsewhere? Because these kind of small misses, and it can happen, I'm not being critical of that, they cost our taxpayers money. So I wonder if the legal department needs to be more active in the contracts.
In this particular case, I would like for y'all to have an experience with the benefits broker, as I will ask representatives from the Gearing Group to be before you at the September 16th meeting as we offer considerations regarding the one-year extension of the Cigna contract, and we can go from there. So in that regard, that's not purely an internal function of purchasing, HR, whatever the case may be. There is this tremendous reliance on the benefits broker to help us get us to where we are. Otherwise, we would be open for business. My request in the meantime is to get through September 16th in that regard, and we can all go from there. Be happy to.
Yeah, but there would be no interruption. My key is only make sure there's no interruption.
Correct.
For the employee, the whoever the plan.
No, it's just could potentially look at quite a cost increase. That's what we're talking about here.
Okay, that's fine.
Well, I'm not sure if it's fine, but I know what you're saying. It's inevitable, I guess, at this point. So I was disappointed with the auditor process. We don't have an auditor, and I'm not feeling, I feel like a little not thrilled about that. We have been talking about audits that we need to do for some time, and they're not getting done. There's things going on in the city. Everybody thinks I'm so hard on employees, and I'm sorry for that, but I take my job very seriously, and there are things happening. We approved a budget amendment in an account that doesn't have money in it, and that's not how it looked to us. It was an oversight. It was a problem, but it's a problem that we need to address. We have past employees who have left sending letters to the city saying money was moved out of an account without proper permission. We have another employee, and I privately can give you more information. I don't want to put names out in public, who talked about providing a financial report, and then shortly thereafter the numbers were different. I've heard the term ghost money in the city, which is concerning. And I brought up something which I'm not an accountant, but when you're struggling to get information about transfers from funds into the general fund, and it's not making sense, and you can't get your hands around it because information is different depending on who you're speaking to, it is remarkably concerning. And why I'm saying all this is, we are hiring a new finance position person. And Mr. Dunkley, I give you a hard time. I have the utmost respect for you, and I'm not being critical of your work. But what I'm saying to you is, perhaps we have procedures that are making things fall through the cracks. Maybe it's our technology. I don't know what's going on, but I feel if we're hiring somebody new in finance, let's fix these problems right now before we put somebody else in that department. Because corrective action somewhere is needed here. I don't know where, but it is. So my request to the commission is that, and this was something that was agreed upon by the prior commission prior to me coming, is that we do an audit of the finance department. We can have the firm that did the Highland Beach audit come in and do it pretty quickly. I believe it was Citterin Cooperman. Yes, and that's what I would like for my commission to consider, because otherwise we have to wait until we hire somebody and then move them in to do the audit. And frankly, it might be overwhelming for one person. I think a firm can come in, get it done, and if we are doing everything perfectly and everything is great, I will be the happiest person up here. And if we're not, I would like to implement corrective action on behalf of our residents, because that is our job. Can I get a consensus?
Well, my question on that is, because if we're going to be hiring a finance person, if you're going to be waiting to hire the finance person until the audit of the finance department is done, that we won't have a finance person for a long time.
No, I'm not saying you wait, but the auditors can come in and start, and they can work with the new finance person. I mean, making the new finance person step in to a situation where we may need corrective action seems like you're setting someone up for failure. Set our new finance person up for success.
What is the timing on the hiring of an auditor?
Your internal auditor?
Yes, the internal auditor.
So I believe you
No,
up
we were
in,
talking about an internal auditor, correct?
no.
I'm talking about hiring a firm to get in and get this done quickly. The internal auditor is still out there. We haven't had enough people responding after the last go-around.
Mr. Mayor, how about this? So the Chief Financial Officer, of course, Hugh Dunkley, will be transitioning from the city. We are in the midst of a recruitment process at this time, in which in the coming weeks, I'm hoping to offer leadership and guidance to achieve an appointment. But of course, that person will come on board sometime that after, because of course he or she will be transitioning accordingly. So that may be potentially month and a half, couple months, something to that effect.
That could be done by then.
And frankly, if the opportunity to achieve objective corrective action or process improvements, let's call them,
Right.
because there are always opportunities for process improvement. To be able to tighten up in any regard is very acceptable to the office of the city manager. I would therefore be supportive in that regard so that we can enable the new chief financial officer to come in and support whatever arrangements that may need to be addressed in terms of corrective action, or process improvement is probably the more accurate term. I don't have any reason to believe that there's something drastically god-awful,
I'm not
problematic,
implying that.
irresponsible. I understand, but if I may, to support your suggestion, a new director of finance or chief financial officer can work collaboratively with a firm to assist us in this regard to achieve a cohesive working environment.
I think while we still have Mr. Dunkley here for a short period of time, you start it now.
I
with a
always think
firm.
there's merit in having
I agree.
reviews done.
Thank you.
So I'm okay. I'm
Yeah.
being supportive.
And I
Do we have
think
three?
that
Are
a
you
variety
Mr.
of
Markert on?
departments
You've got to say something.
Can I just ask a question? I'm just trying to remember the sequence of events, because I feel like last year the plan was to move forward with a firm. We went through an RFP process, and then we switched this year to bring in an internal auditor,
Right.
and basically started over again. So that's why this has all been delayed, or we would have already been in front of this.
was
Am I
out of
wrong?
town, and there were so many factors that were concerning.
Right, but I'm just trying to clarify that, because I don't want the aspersion to get cast that it's Mr. Moore's fault that this hasn't been dealt with yet. It was this commission's decision to sort of switch gears.
I don't think anyone casted an aspersion.
Just making sure it isn't. So, I mean, I don't know.
Again, I support generally, outside reviews of all departments. So if you want to start with finance, I'm fine with that. I don't want it to necessarily interfere with someone that's being hired, but I'm not positive. I'm positive that an independent review would affect that hiring in any.
It should not, and that's my point, ladies and gentlemen. It will not. I can make it work. It's the point I'm here to offer. If there's some interest in proceeding in that regard, but again, let's define this as a process improvement opportunity, because essentially that is all it is. That is all it is, ladies and gentlemen. So process improvements to identify what that might look like, and we go from there.
Thank you
In
very
that case,
much.
I have
Thank you.
consensus to do that, right? Yeah, I think we all.
I'm a yes.
All right.
There you are.
So, I had retained the firm to assist in the Highland Beach audit pursuant to the Auditor General's mandates. We can reach out to them, but I think we need to give them the parameters of what they're auditing. Process improvements.
I think
that's
I
very
have
general.
parameters. If you'd
So-
like, I can assist with that.
So can I ask a question to back up on a previous discussion? Does this need to go out in a formal bid process?
I don't think so.
It's a professional service, so for that reason, it does not.
Okay.
It's exempt from.
How
our
expensive is
competition.
this going to be?
I'm going to find out. I'll bring it all back to the commission because
Maybe at the workshop on the 10th, you'll have an answer for us that you can at
I
least
should have an answer by then.
discuss this.
Thank you.
And see if we're moving forward.
Thank you, Mayor.
Meanwhile, we can work on what the parameters should be.
That's perfect.
Of the review.
because the Highland Beach audit that one actually has a little bit of priority only because we made promises and promises to the Auditor General, so we need
Fine with that.
to figure that out, and then they can start on this one. So that'll give us time to get a quote, and then the commission can come up with parameters.
Thank you so
Great.
much. That's all I
Okay.
have for the evening.
Commissioner Burns,
Yes.
26 things. Okay, good.
No, we just have two things. It's just long.
No, sorry.
I attended the an education roundtable discussion on the 29th after the chamber education breakfast. And the discussions were geared around 3 areas: kindergarten readiness, grade level reading, and career readiness and talent development. I participated in the grade level reading portion, and one of the things that came out of it, which was actually my idea, is that in addition to working with our community and nonprofits and county on what we can do to improve and help support our schools, is that the city should be the lead in, my suggestion is some sort of campaign that creates energy, it creates motivation, let our schools and our families and our students know that that we care about education, that we care about their education. So I would like for us to consider that, to start some sort of campaign from us around, and not just an announcement from a communications on social media. I mean, all over town, at the schools, at the grocery store, like real interest, real to show that, we support, what's best for education for our students in all of our schools. So that was one of the things that I want to consider, starting a campaign from the dais. And the other thing is since we're explaining things, we got an email from you, Lynn. I was looking for it, I can't find it, about the, was it the employment rate? It was a public record request that went out twice, and they were different.
So I had emailed the commission last week. As you are aware, the previous commission commissioned a class and compensation study. The study was completed. I believe staff met with the commission to go over the findings. We did receive a public records request for basically a copy of the report. I was out of town, so I wasn't made aware of it until I came back. Chapter 119 of Florida statute says that if something is a public record and it's not subject to an exemption, the city has a responsibility, a ministerial duty to turn over that document. We do not create records in response to a public records request. The law doesn't require us, and there's no basis to do so. I subsequently learned that the study that the commission had been provided versus what was given to the requester was markedly different. 49 pages had been removed. In Mr. Moore's defense, I believe that they contacted the consultant and asked for certain changes to be made. I did see an email to that effect, which I believe the consultant did provide. But my concern was that from the time that the request was made to the time that the records were dispensed, it was a period of almost a month for something that really should have been provided within minutes because it was readily accessible. And so as a result, I did provide the requester with both versions of the document to ensure that we were compliant with Chapter 119 so that I felt comfortable that we had satisfied our duty to under the law.
So was the study being revised?
I don't know. I wasn't a part of those meetings, so I don't know. From what I could tell in the meetings, the request for the revisions was made after the request for the records was received by the city. So we received a request for records end of July. There was an email to the consultant sometime in August, close to mid-August, and then at that point the records were provided to the requester.
Okay.
What kind of information was left out of the initial request that was included in the second one? I'm just curious of kind of like what the difference was.
Essentially, it was the recommendations. The consultant initially, when he did the study, provided a list of the jobs that were, in the consultant's opinion, that were not up to market, and consistent with the marketplace. And so basically the finalized document essentially contained all of the totals to bring the city or the employees to what the market supports, but the actual jobs that were deficient, those were removed along with the actual numbers.
Mr. Moore, do you have were you finished, Mr. Long?
Wow.
Yeah.
So the first document, as I understand it, was labeled a working document. I believe Mr. DeAndre met with you all individually weeks ago, back in July, something to that effect. And the second document was labeled a final report. So one translated from one to the other. The final report was the result of what was initially presented in the working document. However, I did offer a very thorough counseling session to leadership of the Department of Human Resources regarding Chapter 119 and the obligations to make material available. There was no exemption of a working product vis-a-vis a final product. They both should have been provided, and that's really what the basis of counseling was all about in that regard. It's okay for consultants to work with a sponsoring department based on a working document before finalizing or completing a final report. Very common practice. Many consultants with whom I've interacted with either directly or indirectly operates that way, and that's okay. The key here is to make the material available whenever the request is made.
A working document is still a public record.
That's my point. A working document is a public record. That's the basis of expectations I've offered as a result of this concern being raised.
And has it been corrected? Have they been provided with the...
Ms. Jelen provided both documents.
So the one that, because I remember meeting with Mr. Dwayne, that was the working document.
Yes, ma'am.
So, okay, and so do we have the final document as well?
That is now available as well. That became available less than 2 weeks ago, I guess, the 20th, somewhere in that neighborhood.
Okay.
I emailed both to the commission.
But you all have them both.
You can see the changes.
All right.
Yes, ma'am.
I mean, I reviewed the working document. I guess I need to review the final document.
They both
because
exist.
I just want to make sure that those disparities are shown in the final document with the recommendations.
Yeah, I mean, what I read,
They're not.
what I read did not say what changes there were from the working document to the final document. So I wasn't looking for it.
The
but-
one that I sent you, I highlighted
Right.
what I found to be removed. And just for the record, I did a full citywide training on public records, and the main concern, which is what preempted me to do the training, was that we were creating documents. And I don't fault staff. Staff wants to be responsive. They want to provide good customer service. But when the law doesn't require you to do that, it just creates more problems. And I think this is a perfect example of how something so simple created a much larger problem, for something that's not even shared with the employees. And so, Mr. Moore can handle it however he wants, but now that that record is in the domain, that and it was requested by a former employee. So I think we know where this is going to head. So there are no exemptions for draft. Once I share a draft with anybody, it's automatically a public record. And so we need to be mindful of that, because we do have duties and responsibilities. We should never take 3 weeks to provide a document that can be done within 30 seconds. And so that was my frustration with this entire process.
Thank you. Anything else? All right, I have a few things. First, a couple months ago, we decided we were going to create term limits on one of the pension boards. And there are people on there now who are, but where are we in terms of establishing which one of them are going to be? I mean, we talked about staggering them so they all wouldn't come off at one time. Do we have a schedule as to when this is going to occur? Because
I believe I saw an email from our pension committee. It's either the next meeting or the first meeting in October. I can look it up right now.
Okay, I just want to know where we are in that. Secondly, I was not in the room while this conversation took place, but Commissioner Long brought up a good point regarding if a particular form of architecture, in this case masonry modern, is a permitted form of architecture, then why is it brought to the commission? Why isn't that determination being made by staff? I understand that there is a land development regulation which provides for it, but The question is, when it was done last year, I guess that was as far as I could tell, was a kind of a last-minute addition, but we wanted to come to the commission. So it was added to the land development regulation. But is there any good reason why staff can't, address this without having this commission go through a 15-minute presentation on something which is a permitted form of architecture?
Well, I think that's ultimately the question, is whether it should remain a permitted form of architecture. Some of you that were on the dais remember there was a lot of concern from our community about both Art Deco and Masonry Modern, and what the compromise was that rather than it being administratively approved or approved at a lower board, that before the project got all the way through the end of TAC to go for final approval, the commission would be able to review the architecture and decide whether it was too brutal or not. That tends to be the concern. But if the direction is to just instead give very clear direction to our developers and take the two concerning styles out, we can amend the guidelines and bring that forward.
Then we should have that dreaded W word workshop to all decide whether or not we want to include this as a form of architecture. Because if it is approved, if we're going to allow it, then I'm in complete agreement that why spend 15 minutes on deciding, pick and choosing which.
Well, the concern is that when people do something, whether it just meets the code, doesn't require waivers, or is architecture that the Village by the Sea supports, that you make it very easy to get through. And if it is something that is deviating from maybe what the image of the Village of the Sea is, that you take a little bit more time and give the public more public meetings to review and participate and look at the architecture. But if we feel like after we've tried this, I'm trying to remember when the ordinance was passed, if it's not working, then perhaps it's just an amendment to the guidelines and we can just take it out.
So what is the sense here? Do we want to have a discussion as to whether we want to keep it or?
I think we should. I mean, I brought this up whenever we kept it in before. I was against, I said one of two things. Either we take it out completely or we treat it like every other architecture type. I don't think we should be, like you said, we shouldn't be splitting the baby here. It should be one or the other because we're just creating an inefficiency. And to me, whenever we have a unanimous approval from SPRAB, and then we still have to go through this whole explanation of what Masonry Modern is, and it's just such a waste of time. So I do feel like we got to figure something out here, whether we're just going to get rid of that architecture type going forward or include it and like every other one. I don't like the inconsistency and I don't like the inefficiency.
So is there some consensus to have some kind of a discussion on this to decide if we want to go forward with this or not?
And this will not be next Tuesday, September 10th.
We're going for the world's
record on
record on
December 30th when we're doing the other
workshops.
thing.
Something like that.
Okay. Next thing is,
Wait, can I just follow up with you? 9/16, you'll have those pension committee appointments.
that's fine. Perfect. Perfect. I was just bringing it up. I know you'll get it done. We had a good presentation made by the property appraiser, but I haven't seen we're doing anything with the super senior exemption. I think we should try to proceed with that.
Yes.
If there's a consensus of the board. I didn't hear that we.
You did not, if I may, Mr. Mayor. And this is, I offered an update in writing via the August 23rd information letter report. The cost is bare minimum. It's an $833 impact because those who are eligible in this regard, the valuation is non-existent. So that would be okay.
Well, I'm just saying, if super seniors anyway, I'm a little more flexible to what it would have cost anyway. But so if there's consensus here,
Are we doing it at the 25 or the 50?
We do need direction on that.
It would be, right now you're at 25. To go to another 25 would constitute
Let's
super.
do the 25. Just
It's an
We're already-
additional
we're already
25, so it
Oh,
would be
I'm sorry.
plus.
It's additional
25 plus 25 would make it
revenue
50.
impact
Fine.
is, so
Let's do it.
if we have consensus here?
Yeah.
Okay, great. We're going to get that done.
So that'll be an ordinance.
I'm sorry?
That'll be an
Right.
ordinance before
Okay.
you.
Parking. I had a situation the other day where I was going around looking at, because I listened very carefully to the presentation that was made by the valet parking people. And so I decided to take it upon myself, as I normally do.
Volunteer.
To go look at all of the valet parking spots in the city. I couldn't find one for $10. Couldn't find one. They're all at $15 minimum. Now, I'm not saying the prices shouldn't have been adjusted going up. I'm just saying, under the current contracts we have with them, we have a real contract management problem, because the one outside of Lefke's, where I saw this, the minimum is $25 unless you ate at the restaurant, then it was $15. I mean, that is not what it's supposed
Are
to be.
those our valets or is that their
That was
own?
no, that was the valet. That was an appropriate.
The private companies.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then when someone parked in one of the valet spots, they called the Delray Beach Police to have them towed.
Can we regulate those companies though?
Well, this is what I had a conversation with our city attorney this morning about. We were having a real contract management problem. So the question is, do we want to have all these independent contracts out there with these individual valet services, or do we actually want to consider having one company manage all of the valets over which we have much better control?
Well, Missy was saying we should be doing this as a monetary revenue gain, and I love that idea.
I'm with you, Missy.
You're amazing.
Ladies and gentlemen, I believe we have something in store for the September 16th meeting in terms of
It's gonna be a busy
considerations.
meeting September 16th.
So there may be an opportunity
Bring your
for
sleeping
potential
No,
direction.
I saw the September 16th meeting is for the people to come in to get their contracts renewed.
Correct.
Correct.
I'm trying to take a different tact here.
Got it. I understand.
I think what
The-
he's saying
Because
is
we can have much better
we're going
control
to discuss
over what our pricing and everything if the city is managing it. Because city doesn't necessarily, although we want it to be a profit center,
The point I'm-
has more flexibility.
No, I'm simply here to offer that may be an avenue to offer that point and direction.
Yeah, I guess we have to think about this like we're an
Of
umbrella
course.
because I mean we don't really want the liability of young gentlemen
And I
or
don't think
ladies
the police
driving
should be
cars.
drawn into a private lot to pull people away from and they do their best. They call everybody, they get the tags. But
There's merit to
they're-
that effect as well.
They're stuck with
Brilliant idea, Mayor.
anyway.
It is.
Just to update just a little bit, I have had some conversations with Missy with respect to Old School Square, so I'm not going to go on too much here. But I understand now that the electrical people have been in. They're rewiring a bunch of stuff. The rigging people are still not here. They're coming. That's the one that does all the curtains.
And that's the update I'll offer you all September
Okay,
16th.
I'll let you
That's
do
the
that update.
comprehensive
I'll-
focus.
I had it all written down here, though, so I was ready to go. I want to talk a minute about, really, I'm not going to dwell on this because I'll do it at the next meeting, but I want to talk about reserves for a second.
Okay.
I agree completely that we should be focusing to the excess where over whatever threshold is chosen should be to enhance the
These
enterprise
funds.
funds.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Okay, good.
All I'm arguing is that the 25%, we can achieve just as much with a 20% reserve.
Listen,
as
I
the
don't
other.
debate that with you. I just found it shocking because if you read our reports, that was our city's policy. And my question to you is, when did that policy change?
Well-
and why is it that I'm not aware? Because
All I'm saying is that when you look at the
So let's have that discussion then.
Some of the industry standards are that we're over reserved.
I
And
don't
when you go back to-
necessarily agree. I mean, you have to compare full-service cities. You have to compare coastal full-service
Correct.
cities.
So when you go
have
back to looking-
look at your age of your infrastructure because that's relevant. An infrastructure
Can I
issue
finish
could be.
can I finish my
Oh, I'm
comment?
sorry. I thought you were
Thank
talking to me.
That's okay.
I thought this was
So,
a back
so
and forth.
when I wasn't
I'm sorry.
asking you a debate. We can do that another time.
Yeah.
But when you go back and you look at the actual amount of reserves and things which were impacted after Irma, Charlie, Francis, Dennis to a lesser extent, you will see that the cities has been over reserved in many of these situations. And when I talk about their ability to borrow money, which they've had to do in terms of there's readily available federal funds and things such as that. And I go back to the same thought that I've had for many, many years, is I don't like the taxpayers to pay for the same thing twice. And so by over-reserving, that's really what we're asking them to do. So I think that a normal good reserve of 20% is actually, compared to the historical way that we run the city, compared to the ability of the city to borrow money, I would rather use those excess proceeds to the benefit of the taxpayers than having it sit in a reserve fund.
I don't dispute that. At some point, it was 15%, and I think that was under Mr.
As I said, my
Mayor
auditors wanted me
Glickstein
to do
did
30%. And
a lot
I
of research.
Don't have that many. Our loan loss reserve was bigger than the amount of loans we had at one point. So it was crazy. Anyway, I have nothing else. Anybody has anything else?